Action. Start soon. When the scissors opened and rushed to the upper and lower stairs at the same time, it didn't take long for Impleton's siren to sound immediately. The 5 elders who closed their eyes and rested on the first floor of the sea opened their eyes. Without waiting for the 2 supremes to ask questions, a Secret Service officer quickly said, "Master 5 elders, on the 5th floor of the freezing hell, a group of characters suddenly appeared from nowhere, which caused quite a commotion. We have dispatched personnel went to clean up." Mustache 5 elders frowned. It seems that those mice finally couldn't bear it anymore. At this time, every sudden situation can be dealt with caution. Hearing this, Magellan immediately shook his head at Kaido. It should only be the turmoil in common, and no ships have broken through the defense line yet. This is a prison built under the sea by the government. Not only is it monitored overseas, but there are also several ferocious sea kings. 323 Naturally, it is impossible for someone to silently enter the Impel down from outside the seabed, and the only entrance is only the outer periphery of the first floor. Speaking of which, the Revolutionary Army cadre, the human monster king, who was captured here, disappeared mysteriously a long time ago. In addition, it seems that many criminals have also disappeared in recent years. Under Magellan's guarantee, the agent captain who was waiting beside 5 elders suddenly spoke, making Magellan's face suddenly silent. In that case, I'll go down and see what's going on in person. The 5 elders glanced at each other, but did not make a sound to stop them. In a place like a prison, it is the place where a person with poison ability like Magellan can play the most, not to mention that since the bottom has changed, the guys from the Revolutionary Army should also appear from the front. In Eternal Hell, however, several wires and walls connected to the surveillance bugs were cut open until all the information equipment was completely destroyed, and then a huge staircase leading straight down was cut open by scissors, and in an instant more than 20 figures jumped directly from above. It was originally a dark and infinite area, but the light suddenly shone in on the upper floor, immediately attracting the attention of almost half of the prisoners. "Hey, who are you? How did you get in here? Let me out. I am willing to be your little brother." All kinds of voices resounded on the 6th floor, and even the criminals who hadn't found it knew from the words that someone unexpected had arrived here. "Shut up, you idiots. Are you trying to lure all the jailers here?" Ivankov immediately shouted angrily, and immediately silenced his voice. "Does anyone know where Straw Hat Luffy is? I might have a discretion to let you out." As soon as the words fell, the originally quiet 6th floor immediately exploded. I know, in the innermost position on the left." There was a rush of answers everywhere. After making a quiet gesture, Ivankov immediately led the people to the known direction. "And the detainees on the left are all the most heinous criminals." He also heard the voice, and Doflamingo, who has been harassing Luffy for several days, changed his face, and said with a somewhat displeased tone, "Impel Down dares to break through, it's really enviable popularity, Straw Hat." "Shut up, Doflamingo." Luffy, who was in a bad mood, shouted angrily, and then immediately shouted, "Hey, I'm here. Are you Drago's own son?" Ivankov walked to the innermost prison, looked at the figure and began to look at it. Unlike what he imagined, Duo Lago is confident that he has the temperament of great ambition. Compared with the Luffy in front of the corner with a messy face, there is a complete difference between the North and the South. After all, he has been in the Revolutionary Army for nearly 2 years. After hearing the name, Luffy is not as unfamiliar as in the original book. He quickly got up and said, "Are you from Sabo? Are you from the Revolutionary Army? Did Sabo come too?" "Ah. Who are we to save you? Your companion, father, and Sabo are all waiting. By the way, why do you care more about Sabo?" After Ivankov yelled loudly, he let the monsters directly open the cell. They didn't lack the keys. After all, they secretly caused the disappearance. "Ah. Resurrected. Let's get out. Brooke is still waiting for me." "Don't worry. We still need some accomplices who can go out from here together. Now this place is not as good as it used to be. It is said that the guys from the world government and even the 5 elders are here personally." Stopping the revived Luffy with one hand, Ivankov looked around. If you want to say that the Impel Down is strong, they are undoubtedly in this infinite region, but under the condition of strength, these guys are all heinous criminals. It can be used, but it is very dangerous. It is simply a double-edged sword that makes people tangled, but it seems that this situation cannot be considered so much now. After all, there are more important revolutionary forces outside. Hearing Ivankov's words, the criminals who have been imprisoned here for an unknown period of time couldn't sit still, and they all recommended themselves as being. After all, instead of staying forever in this garbage hell, more people are willing to try the road of jailbreaking. Ivankov just scanned under those voices one by one, and sifted through the information provided to him by his partners. "Hey, that ladyboy, since it's so exciting outside, let me out too." Just when more and more guys came out and started to revel, a voice sounded from a dark private room. Ivankov heard the reputation and looked over. After distinguishing the identity of the burly man according to the information, his pupils shrank involuntarily. Douglas Bullitt. But he didn't say much, but directly ordered his subordinates to throw the key over. Soon, the figure among them picked up the key and untied Seastone's limbs that were handcuffed. Kangdang, the iron door was pushed open heavily. With a strong physique, even wearing a prison uniform still gives people a great sense of oppression. After all, it's obviously a bunch of rubbish, you guys are too noisy. As the words fell, the terrifying conquerors swept across in an instant, making the pirates who had come out to carnival and shouting all quiet. It's just that this conquerors was quickly suppressed by another one. Hey, you bastard. I didn't let you out to make trouble. Hey. The new 4 emperors. The moment the ground collapsed, Bullitt condensed powerful strength and armed forces, and stormed towards Luffy. Boom. Luffy hastily clenched his fist, condensing the armed color and bombarding with Bullitt's fist. The airflow exploded, and huge fluctuations swept across. Under the confrontation, the two moved a few steps away. Interesting. But it's nowhere near the 4 emperors I thought it would be. Bullitt looked at Luffy with a smirk, and then turned his wrist. Although I'm also interested in you, but we can talk about everything later. Hey. It's really getting more and more terrifying, Straw Hat. But you not only destroyed my country, but also caused me to lose my companions. Shouldn't you pay me compensation at this time? Immediately after the laughter came again, Doflamingo turned to Ivankov. Besides, isn't your revolutionary army planning to deal with those high-ranking people in the world government? I know the national treasure information that those people are afraid of. Take me with you, too. If that person is really the Brook that this kid said, I can't ignore it. After another round of self-recommendations and conflicts, nearly half of the Eternal Hell powerhouses were released. With the same goal, they temporarily formed a prison escape coalition and began to march towards the upper level. Enemy attack. Enemy attack. Under the changes in Imperton, Magellan, who was descending in the elevator, soon received panic reports from the jailers on the 5th floor. Director. A riot broke out in freezing hell on the 5th floor, and figures from the Revolutionary Army appeared, and almost all the criminals imprisoned in Eternal Hell were released, including 2 former Shichibukai-san crocodiles and Doflamingo, 4 Emperor's Straw Hats, Devil Air Barretto, Red Earl Redfield and others. What? Magellan's expression changed drastically when he heard the words, and he couldn't help but grab the jailer who had reported, and the strength was so great that he almost fainted from the pain. Are you kidding? How did the people from the Revolutionary Army appear? So what? There will be our keys. We don't know either. The jailer was sweating coldly, endured the severe pain in his shoulders, and gritted his teeth to respond. However, Ivankov, a revolutionary soldier who thought he died on the 5th floor a few years ago, suddenly appeared, and it seems to be organized by him. It really hit the spot. Magellan let go of the sweating jailer with a grim expression on his face. Although he wanted to complain about why the agents hadn't reminded him sooner, he knew that these were guesses in the end. But now that the problem occurs, there is no doubt that he is fully responsible for his dereliction of duty. Thinking in his heart, Magellan stretched out his hand to press the 5th floor directly at the position of the elevator, and at the same time ordered, "Go and inform the group above that Impel down needs support inside." Now that he has defaulted on his responsibility, he can't care about the so-called Impel down honor and face, let alone the Eternal Hell gang. He is not sure whether he, who has the geographical advantage, can stop it. Understood. Knowing the seriousness of the situation, the jailer quickly hung up the phone and informed the higher-ups. It was almost the moment when there was a commotion on the 6th floor of the basement. The monitoring equipment outside the Impelton Sea area was completely destroyed under the flickering of several light beams. Boom. 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 The terrifying impact brought by the laser cannons caused the surrounding waves to boil continuously. The Revolutionary Army directly sounded the horn of attack with the weapons of the era purchased from the Flying Kingdom. The gang of criminals from the Revolutionary Army really has an affair with Maud's forces. The son and grandson of the Marine hero, 1 or 2 have become cancerous tumors of the government, and they want to overthrow the government. It is time for them to understand the reason why the government has maintained its 800-year rule. The long-bearded 5 elders said coldly, then stood up and began to order the troops previously deployed in Impel down to meet the enemy head-on. The CP0 officer who has been waiting on the spot all the time, the strength can be called the existence of the Marine alternate admiral, and after the bearded 5 elders got up, he jumped high into the sky and quickly cast his ability. In the blink of an eye, a huge shadow that could cover the sky and the sun shrouded the top of Impel down, and the chief in the form of the phantom beast Kunpeng quickly lowered his body to the 5 elders, and began to use his huge body as a carrier of combat power and amount. In the absence of reports, after Whitebeard and Marine's world-class summit war, it can be said that the grade is not inferior to this level of war, and it has begun to start in another organization under the world government. And on this day, the lively major events are far more than that. Waterstar Island is just a medium-sized town-level island. At this moment, it is not only attracting the attention of the people all over the world, but also the power of no less than 6,000 ships has gathered on the island. Morgans controlled the live broadcast, and scanned the flags hoisted on every ship that appeared in the waters of Waterstar Island one by one, as well as the group of people who could feel the extraordinary existence just by looking at it. Even through the screen, people who are watching the live broadcast can feel the blood and oppression coming through the screen. After all, the existence that can come here has never been a kind person. In particular, Morgans is also very good at capturing hot spots. Basically, every scene that stays is an old New World powerhouse and influence that is enough to make people's hearts jump. At this moment, as if he noticed something worthy of diversion, the screen quickly changed, and he came to the overseas of Shuishenshing Island. And this scene just shows that another scary guy is coming? The hearts of the people tightened, and their eyes fixed on the changing screen. Above the sea, a 2-masted pirate ship with a dragon-shaped bow appeared in the picture. Not only the people watching the live broadcast all over the world, but even all the forces watching on Shuishenshing Island, almost immediately saw the ship with the iconic dragon head in the pirate flag. All of them couldn't help but show nervousness color. 4 emperors, here we come. The noisy atmosphere of fighting caused by the gathering of a large number of evil forces and pirate groups, or the conflicts between them, seemed to have been pressed the still button at this moment. The loud and noisy pirates fell into silence, and all the pirates who were fighting to reduce the number of people also chose to stop. Instead, it was filled with the almost inseparable solemnity in the air. The next moment, as if matching the dignified atmosphere, the invisible and terrifying Haki came from Red Fosco. Moment. The sea boils and the wind blows. With the red hair known as the strongest Haki, just a full-blown aura instantly convinced more than half of the guys on the island. After all, facing this kind of Haki makes them wake up from their delusional world and realize that it is a foolish thing to compete with such characters. Red hair. Suddenly there was a roar from the sky. With a burning gaze, Kaido swooped down from the red force directly above the sky, and was covered by armament Haki instantly on top of his clenched fist, and the arc of black red flew from the fist to the surroundings of the body spread. Just by posing an offensive posture, Kaido exudes a terrifying aura. Facing Kaido, who came with a terrifying aura, the redhead held a griffin with a serious face. The rich armament Haki wrapped around the sword in an instant, and black and red lightning lingered on it, pouring all the power into it. Griffin, who was wrapped around the overlord protagonist, slashed at the punching fist at a speed exceeding Shaw's usual. Hum. A sound that shook the eardrums buzzed, covering all the sounds in the world. The two powerful forces collided in the air, and the conqueror's Haki burst out from each other. Countless black arcs spread like spider webs in the air around the two of them. In space, it seems that there is a crack between the magnetic children of the two. Rumble. The collision between the forces caused changes in the sky. A strong wind was born around the two of them, roaring toward Shuishenshing Island not far away, and the sea area around the two of them also set off turbulent waves in an instant. The iron fist collided with the blade, continuously bursting out black-red arcs. The two substantial auras from Red Hair and Kaido, through the collision between conquerors, exude a terrifying aura towards the surroundings. What's with that terrifying power? Hey, it feels like we're going to die just by getting involved. Is this the power of the 4 Emperors class? Even though those who came here after experience can be regarded as the best in the world, but witnessing the terrifying power of the 2 New World Emperors, Kaido and Hongfa, in the battle, it is inevitable that they will be stunned. Many people even soaked their clothes in cold sweat. Are monsters of this level really capable of dealing with them? Especially the big secret treasure of One Piece is bound to be the existence that will be scrambled by everyone. The domineering attacks from both sides forced the originally calm sea into a violent storm. Redhead. I knew you would come. Kaido smirked and knocked the other party unconscious on the boat. But it seems that you didn't bring the so-called entrance ticket, so you are not eligible to participate in this feast. Kaido, as the 4 Emperors, you should know what kind of existence pirates are. The red-haired looked up at Kaido calmly, his eyes were like deep pools without any ripples. The next moment, the more terrifying conquerors just pressed straight towards the opponent, directly breaking the stalemate from the tyrant, and shocked Kaido back to the Waterstar Island. Besides, this so-called feast, in my opinion, it's just an extremely absurd activity. After the red hair fell steadily back to Red Force, he said coldly, These are just wars you specially provoke to achieve your own desires. That's all. The relationship between Marine and the New World Group has reached an unprecedented level, allowing the world government and Marine to lock their eyes here to achieve the outbreak of war, and thus the strength of Marine and world government will be compromised. This is your real purpose. They are just poor people who were attracted into this scam by the so-called big secret treasure. Shanks swept towards Kaido and the warships with the flag of the Flying Kingdom in the sky, and said solemnly, because as long as the Marine and government forces are damaged, it will be easier for Maud to capture Mariojoy. After all, that man's ambition, it's about outlawing the government's place in the world. The conquerors in the battle with Kaido had already attracted much attention, but what he said at this moment was heard not only by the Waterstar Island, but also by people all over the world. And the information in these words shocked everyone who heard it, and even the reporters who were fighting on the front line of the news stopped their recording actions for a moment because they were too frightened. The strongest existence in the world. At the same time, he is also the ruler of the most powerful country in the world today. Maud, the king of flying, actually wants to banish the government that has ruled the world for 800 years? Although this kind of ambition is not something to be exclaimed about on that man, and many people have already speculated in private, but in fact, they still feel unavoidable when they learn from other people's mouths, appalled. The people watching the live broadcast all over the world were shocked by this news, and the people of Shuishen Qingdao were also the same, but after reacting, most people still read the information that they were being used by the red hair. But no one would want to be a pawn, even if that existence is the flying kingdom that countless people in the New World fear. Is that what you meant to say? Redhead. There was no denial as expected by the red hair. Kaido turned into a giant dragon and climbed in the air, still laughing heartily. Lousy doesn't care about the ambition of that guy motor, or playing tricks on others. As long as this war that can change the direction of the world breaks out, that's enough. As soon as the words fell, the flying fleet from above immediately issued a warning sound that resounded through the nearby sea area. Immediately after taking over the role of Morgans, a huge display is directly displayed between the world and the earth. Everyone on the island knows the displayed picture. That is the dividing line of the sea not far from Shuishenxing Island. At the sea level of the picture, the outlines of 10 warships with blue and white flags gradually appear clearly. It's the Marine Grand Fleet. The terrified words, especially the scene of hundreds of large warships advancing in neat formation and breaking the waves on the sea, caused quite a shock. This kind of battle, it is estimated that there are no less than 300,000 troops conservatively. From a distance, it feels full of oppression. This scale is several times stronger than the Summit War lineup that most people in the world are talking about. There is no doubt that this is definitely a country-destroying force that no country in the world can resist. Especially among them are all the elite of Marine and world government. Seeing the Marine and government forces coming on this scale, all the people who watched the live broadcast were stunned, belatedly realized that this will indeed be as Kaido said, a war that can affect the direction of the world. On Shuishenxing Island, some pirates even sat down on the ground in horror. After all, even he had never seen hundreds of warships approaching unstoppably. Damn it. Is it true that as the redhead said, we are all just pawns? Many people began to curse, and even Kaido and Modway didn't care about their lives when their lives were in an unprecedented crisis. It's just that this is obviously useless. Since Marine's head is used as an admission ticket, no matter what the reason is, they will definitely not be able to escape the ending of being crusaded by Marine. Even begging for mercy may not be feasible, after all, that is Akainu is the marshal, not to mention they don't want to enter Impel down as their second half of life. Unless they can win this war. Of course, the reason why they came here is also related to this reason. After all, they completely offended Marine for the entrance ticket, so holding a group for warmth or relying on the prestige of Maud and Kaido will give them a sense of security, especially if they can really get the powerful power of One Piece. They don't need to dread these. You know, but no one wants to be drawn into this life-threatening chess game in such a cheap way as a pawn, especially as a foil for Motor's world ambitions. These bloody lunatics. The people who came here are not fools, and after realizing this, they looked at the Kaido camp and the flying fleet in the air with even more resentful eyes. And Kaido just laughed and said, "Now is the beginning of the feast. Aren't you always curious about how there are so many people fighting for the way to Raftel?" Kaido glanced at a group of pirate forces below. Madness and excitement flashed in his eyes. As long as you can survive this war with Marine and the government, we'll have the ability to go to the Raftel issue. It's really troublesome. Kizaru stood at the bow of the boat with his hands in his pockets, overlooking the gradually clear outline of Shuishenxing Island. The sea breeze that seemed to have a chilling aura blew from a distance, blowing everyone's cloaks and seagull flags rattling. "What's the trouble, old man?" Standing next to Kizaru and carrying a big axe, Zan Momomaru heard the other parties whisper, and looked forward confidently. We have the strongest artificial humans in our hands, and there are countless Marines and government elites, besides and that guy with the red hair. It's not going to be an uphill battle against those guys. Everything is still uncertain, we have all suffered a lot under the hands of the Mord guy. Kizaru glanced at the chief of staff Suru, who stood there with a calm face, thinking why Zan Momomaru was a direct descendant brought up by him after taking over from Vegapunk, touched his chin and reminded. In short, the instability is still very strong, remember to protect yourself, after all, it is very difficult for anyone to support you in a battle of this level. Zan Taowen scratched his head, but didn't continue to ask any more questions, but his hand holding the giant axe tightened even more. By the way, according to the size of our large fleet, just using artillery fire is enough to clean the Waterstar Island in front. Araki looked at the Waterstar Island that was getting closer and said. If it were really that simple, the Flying Kingdom and the Kaido Gang wouldn't have established this vile activity on such small and medium-sized islands. Almost in the middle of Marine Admiral and Chief of Staff Maintenance, J. Golucia Sarden, who was on the expedition together, calmly finished speaking, and made Huang Mu immediately nod with a teachable look. Accompanied by the aggregation and shaping of a large number of light particles, Kizaru appeared on the front mast of the warship. Then let me see. The moment the voice fell, Kizaru turned into a flash of gold and disappeared from the mast, and then, in the eyes of marine, pirates and people all over the world, he came to the top of the Waterstar Island not far away, bursting out with dazzling light. His figure emerged from the golden light, and then his hands were crossed in front of him, and the light of the cross flickered between his fingers. 8-foot Chong Guyu. In an instant, countless gold light bullets slammed down towards Shui Shen Xingdao like a gust of wind and rain. And just when Gold's light bomb fell, a huge and fat figure jumped up from the deck of the flying battleship in the air, and instantly turned into a big bird covered in blue flames. In an instant, it directly spread its huge wings nearly 100 meters in length, and directly hit the 8-foot Chong Goyu's light bullet with its body. Chi. When Gold's rain of light bullets touched Kang, Blue's flame erupted violently like cold water dripping into a frying pan. It is almost visible to the naked eye. It can be seen that the blue flames on the huge wings seem to be continuously shattered, but they are reborn in an instant, and then continue to be shattered and reborn. I don't know how many times this is repeated. In the end, the huge blue flame completely exhausted the gold light bullets falling in the air. Boom. When the rain of gold light bullets was blocked, the huge blue flame exploded in an instant, forming a violent gust of wind in the air and sweeping towards the surroundings. After exhausting all means, Kizaru landed on the red-haired docked ship, and looked at Charlotte Linlin, who had turned into a phoenix in the air, with a rare look of surprise. Steel balloons plus the terrifying resilience of the phoenix. Flying Kingdom is really good at making such incredible monsters. Admiral's attack was actually blocked. What's going on? Who is that? Is it the second in command of the Whitebeard pirates, Phoenix Marco? No. It's the strongest man-made weapon of the Flying Kingdom, Big Mom Legion. Sure enough, the remnants of Whitebeard were all dealt with by the Flying Kingdom, and I'm afraid the same was true for Blackbeard and Whitebeard too at that time. There were whispers on the warship or the island, especially when they saw the phoenix wrapped in blue flames in the sky, their eyes were shocked. Ah la la, it looks like it's time to make a move. On the flying battleship, Kuzan looked at the approaching marine warship, his figure flashed, and his whole body quickly turned into an ice ball and landed on the sea. Ice Age. The slightly icy voice echoed on the empty sea. Aokiji stretched out his arms towards the sea below, a slender icicle spread out from his palm, and the rapidly spreading icicle quickly touched the sea. Accompanied by terrifying low temperature, kaka. The sound of the seawater freezing rapidly on the sea surface was heard all of a sudden. The terrifying ice layer rapidly expanded towards the sea area in front of the marine fleet at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even because of the extreme cold, the water vapor in the sky condensed into snowflakes and fell, and many marines and pirates even shivered from the sudden low temperature. Almost in an instant, the frozen sea surface had spread to several kilometers of sea area, directly forcing the forward warships to be stuck on the ice. This is Kuzan's ability. The rudder is frozen. What should I do if I can't move it? Damn it. Aokiji Admiral has really joined the Flying Kingdom, and he's going to attack us. Impossible. Why is this happening? All marine executives changed their faces because of this, especially the dovish vice admirals and Sengoku who had supported Kuzan. Since he has degenerated into garbage on the sea, there is no reason to let him go any longer. The cigar in his mouth was burned out of anger. Akainu stared at the figure on the ice, gritted his teeth and ordered, "Don't let me let go of 10 of these garbage in the sea." Under the command of the marshal, more than hundreds of thousands of troops began to rush towards the coast of Shui Island, especially the powerful aura emitted by the many marine generals who took the lead, as well as the powerful aura hovering over the ice. The majestic aura makes people feel the oppression of the imminent war. Seeing the arrival of the large marine army, the pirates of Waterstar Island could only grit their teeth and prepare to parry the marines' attack no matter how frightened they were. At the very least, seeing the powerful resources and combat power of the Flying Kingdom appear on the scene, they also have some assurance of peace of mind. And the people who watched the live broadcast were all concentrated, and the peerless war had already begun. The war has begun. As if hearing the ridicule in Kizaru's words, the red-haired pupil sternly said, "This is different from what we agreed." The terrifying conquerors moved towards Kizaru from passive to active, until the opponent was forced to break out in a cold sweat and raised his hands to cry for injustice. "I don't know what kind of dealings you have with those high-ranking officials, I'm just a marine who does what's required." As he said that, Kizaru changed his cowardly attitude of being oppressed by the conquerors, and calmly swept towards the position of the battlefield, his eyes showing coldness under the sunglasses. "But don't just think that it's okay for them to bring Marine's head to participate in any carnival. It is the attitude of the government and Marine to be safe and sound. Well, let's not mention these for now, at least your purpose of coming this time is not the same as ours, you have a common enemy." Kizaru's momentum returned to the usual situation again, and after a reminder, he turned into light particles and disappeared on the red-haired boat. "What's next, Shanks?" said Ben Beckman, lighting a cigar. "According to the original plan, after all, that guy Akainu is in command over there." After the redhead gave the order, he suddenly laughed and said, "And those guys at Marine seem to have thought something wrong. We are here this time to compete for that one by CE. The scum of the sea has no need to live." Seeing the start of the war, Akainu, who is the #1 Marine today, shouted angrily. His arms and clothes turned into flowing magma in an instant, and he immediately raised his arms to the air in the direction of Shuishen Qingdao, and then a large number of fist-shaped magma bombs were fired towards the air one after another. Meteor volcano. Countless magma bombs expanded rapidly as they flew high into the sky, and then directly submerged into the clouds, dyeing the originally pitch-black Wu-Wei into a red-like color like a raging fire. A few seconds later, countless fist-shaped magma bombs penetrated the clouds like a meteor shower and fell towards Shuishen Qingdao. After a while, the clouds in the sky suddenly spread out towards the surroundings, as if some huge monster was squeezing the clouds away. Soon this behemoth revealed its true colors. A huge meteorite wrapped in flames pushed through the clouds and fell towards Shuishen Island. More precisely, it is the sea surface ship where Shui Dong lived. Boom! A huge roar sounded on the periphery of the island. The meteorite hit the ship in the port. All of a sudden, centered on the falling point of the meteorite, a terrifying explosion occurred. The surging shock wave, mixed with a large amount of black smoke caused by the magma igniting the trees, enveloped the island in an instant. Meteorite. It's a magma meteorite. Akainu's shot. Hey, are you kidding? Are these guys so ruthless when they come up? Damn. That guy's target is not us. It's the supplies on our ship. Many pirates and evil forces looked up at the huge meteorite that dyed the sky red, especially when it sank ships one by one directly and accurately after landing. They couldn't help but yelled. Those bastards Marine really want to keep us here. In order to survive. I can only fight. Just in time to pursue One Piece, by the way. Woo la la la. Since you won't give us our lives, then come and fight, Marine. Use Marine's head to tell them that this is a paradise for pirates. A paradise for pirates. It's New World. This is the bloody existence of New World. With the ice and lava of their respective camps opening up the battlefield, countless pirates screamed like smashing cans, and rushed to Marine one after another. Among them, the lunatic pirate group led by Kaido rushed to the forefront. Marine, who also came here, has already made the belief and determination to win. Come on. Kill the scum of the sea, for justice, for peace. Follow me. Many Marines rushed towards Shuishen Island under the leadership of a Marine general. Soon, the pirates with a tight formation collided with the pirates with a loose formation and no coordination at all. In just a moment, the brave pirates were overwhelmed by the blue and white waves. The sounds of fighting, screams, weapon collisions, and explosions echoed over the battlefield. With the advantages in numbers and training, Marine quickly killed most of the pirates. But those who came here were all the best of the evil forces of the New World. Naturally, some Marine formations were quickly slaughtered when they were dispersed. It was so tragic that someone fell onto the ice almost every second, causing the ice to quickly turn into a scene of blood. And this situation started to intensify over time. First of all, a new generation of pacifist weapons and seraphim began to land on the battlefield. Known as the strongest human weapon by the world government and marine, it soon began to kill all sides on the battlefield. Whoosh! A series of extremely lethal light beams continued to shoot at the exhausted pirates. Under the laser bombardment, there was a pile of shattered limbs. And then there is the group of animal agents made by man-made Devil Fruit Smile, even playing a role far superior to Kaido's group of beasts. The situation began to be one-sided as Marine gradually unfolded his cards. Under the live broadcast of the world, countless people witnessed everything. Although the war cruelly guarded countless lives, it was nothing more than an ordinary thing in this world. Even though some people feel palpitations and can't bear to watch the atmosphere of this fight, they are more celebrating and cheering when they witness the righteous side gaining the upper hand. Damn. This laser cannon can't even defend against Haki. When will the world government get these monsters? Where are the weapons and combat power of the Flying Kingdom? Damn it, use us as pawns and watch us die right now. Unlike the people who just live broadcasted their feelings, the pirates who experienced the bad situation could not help showing despair and resentment. Previously, they had vowed to make Marine pay the price, saying that they would compete for the position of the great secret treasure, but facing the terrifying Marine strength far beyond their impression, they felt as helpless as pigs and sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Just at this moment a horn resounded through the sky. Immediately afterwards, a rumbling sound sounded, and the frozen ice surface in the distance broke open under this sound. It was as if a path forward had been directly cut by some huge attack. Under the eyes of everyone, dozens of huge warships as large as 100 meters appeared on the sea level. And on the ship, there are titans holding giant axes and long swords and screaming loudly. That's Albuff's titan, knife. The sudden change changed the atmosphere in the battlefield. Looking at the attack of the huge battleship, everyone couldn't hide the shock in their hearts. Although it is no longer the so-called world's most powerful country, Albuff's strength is still deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. When such a critical moment suddenly appears, it is difficult for people to imagine whether the other party has any bad intentions. Soon, the answer was told to people all over the world. I saw the warriors from the Titan country start to swing their long swords or spears, and the next moment, the terrifying power from the Titan talent instantly condensed on their wrists. Hakoku. Countless titans resounded like thunderous fury. The huge power of tens of thousands of meters, enough to destroy the country, roared up from the ground and rushed towards the direction where the army and world government ships were moored with a world-shaking momentum. Damn. The green cow Huang Mu let out an angry roar, and immediately flocked desperately to the direction where the huge power came. Hundreds of thousands of energies gathered from the corpses on the battlefield, and all of them merged into Huang Mu, who had turned into a forest in a blink of an eye. Fist of Nature. Terrifying energy poured out, forming thousands of meters of hands made of vines and bushes, and then condensed the armed colors bestowed by the will and blasted towards the huge Hakoku. Boom. The sound of violent concussion spread, and the entire ice surface shook crazily at this moment, and there were countless cobweb cracks spreading, among which countless seawater broke through, forming a magnificent fountain with a range of nearly a kilometer. On the main battlefield where the two sides attacked and resisted, the huge Hakoku still extended a distance of several hundred meters before stopping, and offset the symbolic attack condensed by Albuff warrior, half kneeling on the ground while donating blood. Green Bull Admiral. Although it is great to block this shocking blow, as Admiral, Aramu's fate has caused a lot of impact on the world, the government, and Marine. The ALBAF Titans are here for us, it's the enemy. Titan, who is also a Marine general, shouted to the battlefield of his own country with disbelief, even disbelief. Why does King Rocky want to conquer the world and attack Marine? Aren't we friends with the government? The Titan quickly pierced the school-level voice to the Albaf army who came to the battlefield. Friend? Don't be kidding, our friend is moored. It's the Flying Kingdom. Woo la la la. Such a battlefield is suitable for us to show the glory of Albuff to the world. Quit that King Marine, too. The world shouldn't be run by those guys. Maud is right. This is the time for our Albuff warrior renaissance. Even without Loki's reply, General Titan's questioning was rejected, and at the same time, everyone understood that Almeter's participation in the war has an absolute relationship with Sauda and Flying Kingdom. The heroic fighting from the Titan warrior, and soon the group of Titans began to wreak havoc on the battlefield with an unstoppable momentum. Even Albuff is involved. 5 elders Satan tightly held the crutch in his hand, and his expression was not as indifferent as before. Albuff's strength and heritage as the world's most powerful country must not be underestimated, especially when a race like Titan is on the battlefield. Destructive power. Thinking that this battle was witnessed by that adult, not to mention that the cards of the existence of the Flying Kingdom group have not yet been revealed. Sa Tansheng couldn't sit still and stood up, and Zhou Kailong, who was beside him, stepped forward immediately. Allow those giant war machines built by Vegapunk. Bring God's shield and Seraphim into top order. The CPO who was ordered immediately understood the meaning, that is, just eliminate the enemy and put the first friendly forces behind. After all, because of meeting and fighting, some advanced combat forces are still a little bit restrained in their actions because they have to take into account the Marines who are also fighting. Holy Land Mariajoy. In the conference hall in Pengu City, 5 elders watching the screen are also staring at the ever-changing battlefield. At this time, Marine and the government maintained their advantage on the battlefield by joining the giant war weapons made by Vegapunk. But looking at the battle that caused more casualties because of Al Buff and the giant weapon, the blonde 5 elders and the warrior 5 elders frowned. Apparently, they didn't expect Al Buff's intrusion to bring the situation to such a change. Otherwise, with the stinky fish and rotten shrimps, Marine would have already controlled the situation, thus exposing the territory of the Flying Kingdom. From this point of view, this may be the purpose of the Flying Kingdom. Blonde 5 elders suddenly said. From the beginning to the end, only Kaido ended up. Except for blocking Beluzolino's attack, those guys have remained indifferent until now. Instead, they used Al Buff's Titan to make the war become even more bloody and chaotic. Maybe the Shu Fei Sky Kingdom didn't intend to use this bunch of sea garbage to fight us at all. They wanted to use our hands to eradicate this group of villains that gathered. By the way, let Marine joining the army with the government also hurts both sides. Wolf ambition. The warrior 5 elders also noticed something and said angrily, that guy really has the heart to devour the gods, and he wants to take advantage of our military strength to enjoy the benefits. Whether it is evil forces or pirates, they are difficult to control in this world and need to be cleared of sea garbage. Flying Kingdom is walking with the ambition of annexing the world government, so it must be clear sooner or later. It's just that guy is clever while weakening the enemy, and at the same time let his primary enemy help him deal with these troubles that need to be cleared in the future. The exact problem is that the contradictions caused by the admission ticket and One Piece make them have to enter this game. At this time, a world government official came from outside the conference hall, and he reported to the 2 chiefs with the latest information. My lord, the Flying Kingdom has left the Flying Kingdom area. What? The 5 elders couldn't help shouting. Although it has been expected for a long time, is the most critical unstable factor finally coming to an end. Realizing this, the 5 elders quickly thought of something. The Flying Kingdom, which has air supremacy and flight capabilities, is likely to be in 2 locations this time. One is Shui Shenxing Island, the focus of this world war, and the other is the continent under their feet. Considering that Shui Shenxing Island is just a so-called sit and consumes Marine and the government, then the most likely destination of the other party is the Holy Land of Mariajoy, not to mention that it is currently in the World Summit period, and almost all the kings of the franchise countries around the world are on this terracotta continent. This is indeed the best time to drag the entire world as quickly as possible. Regardless of where Maud's self-confidence comes from, and thinking about the scheming of that wolf's ambition, the 2 of them couldn't help but become cautious about this, and quickly ordered to the peripheral CP, launch the defense of Mariajoy, mobilize all the forces of the 19th royal family to expand the security net, simultaneously mobilize the joint fleet of the allied countries. After giving the order, the golden-haired 5 elders Xing said, these add up to at least about 400,000 elite troops, should be enough to resist the possible attacks of the Flying Kingdom. The 400,000 army, and it is still an elite government force, has a combat power that is not in vain even in the face of a million-strong army of the world's superpowers. The level is even comparable to the large army that went to Shui Shenxing Island this time. As long as that guy's country really appears in the area near the Holy Land, immediately order the troops from the 2 battlefields to come back. Reach the sum of the troops and completely keep the current government's biggest threat here in one fell swoop. Holding the ghostly kimono 5 of first-generation elders said coldly, with a murderous intent in his words. Compared with the villains of Star Island, or the revolutionary army and criminals who Impel down, the most important thing at this moment is the kingdom of Flying Sky. Just as the 5 elders guessed, at this time, under the operation of Lion Fruit, Maud was heading towards Mariajoy at an altitude of tens of thousands of meters that no one could see. Although I am not on the battlefield of Shui Shenxing Island, whether it is through the live broadcast or the direct connection information of the flying battleship personnel over there, Motor can better understand the changes in the battle situation. Lord Maud. According to the Shadow Guard's report, the government has intensified their efforts to clean up. Judging from this speed, the situation on Shui Shen Island will be completely controlled by Marine and the others in less than an hour. Listening to Robin's report, Maud nodded. It seems that the message from the Holy Land has passed. The measures taken by the 5 elders in the Holy Land were naturally within the information Maud possessed. After all, it was a coincidence that the representative of the Holy Land's mobilization of royal forces was Katrine's incarnation of the Celestial Dragon's elite, Rorjaby Palace. But it doesn't matter, haven't we already guessed about this kind of situation? Maud smiled indifferently. Tell the past, we can start, they probably can't stand it long ago. The news was conveyed by Luo and Ah Shi to the retainers above Mercury Island. Knowing Maud's permission, Nami, Zoro, Lafitte and others all looked bright, especially Karina and Nuo Kagao. After all, their real abilities can finally be used at the critical moment of winning the world for Maud-sama. Come. On Shui Shenxing Island, if the situation has changed from being evenly matched at the beginning to one-sided, then the battlefield at this moment is undoubtedly in a crushing situation. Basically, Kaido and Raftel Warrior, who fought Akainu and Kizaru alone, still played a big role. The Beast's pirates and the evil pirate group were all killed by the crazy offensive launched by Marine and the government. 88. Not to mention that the Flying Kingdom, which they had high hopes for, did not participate in the war and just stood by, and the red hair of the four emperors was helping Marine and the government deal with Marine. The direction of the war can already be seen. No matter how terrifying the existence in New World is, after all, it is difficult to escape the defeat under the hands of all Marine elites, government weapons and CP. Although it is said that this is the case that the Flying Kingdom did not make a move, even if it does make a move now, it may not be able to reverse the situation. It's just that the ending often backfires. Just as Marine is about to slowly accept the fruits of victory, someone soon discovers that something is wrong. The Beast agents, who previously displayed Kamui except Seraphim and giant war weapons, suddenly started attacking the Marine camp frantically, as if something went wrong. Marines and government soldiers caught off guard were directly torn apart, and Seraphim was also destroyed. What's happening here? Saint Satan frowned, and even Akainu, who was fighting with Kaido, noticed this situation. The counterattack is about to start. A thunderous 8 trigrams blasted away Akainu's giant magma fist, and Kaido showed a hearty smile. Counterattack. Don't be joking, whether it's you or Maud, you bunch of garbage in the sea can't escape being wiped out by justice. That's why Maud's fellow escaped before the battle. After just a few glances, Akainu stopped paying attention, and continued to concentrate on fighting Kaido in front of him. This guy's trouble lies in the improvement of physical fitness brought about by the awakening of the Phantom Beast. For a while, he and Beluzolino have joined forces for several hours and have not yet defeated each other. However, as time goes by, the two of them will definitely exhaust each other's physical strength first, not to mention that the war situation has become clearer. As for the situation with the beasts, the government's problems will be handled by the 5 elders who almost succeeded him in command of the Marine. Ilara, Sakazuki, you still like talking bad things behind people's backs so much. Swish. Seeing the person coming, Akainu hit a Dark Hound condensing Ultimate's high temperature without saying a word. Knowing Akainu's tricks, Kuzan immediately threw out several ice spikes for defense. Where the two sides attacked, a large expanse of boiling steam rose immediately. Is the martial battle going to be staged again? It seems that it is really time to fight back. Kizaru swept towards the flying battleship, and saw that the famous Bigmom Legion of the Flying Kingdom was ready to go and landed on the island. It's the Bigmom Legion of the Flying Kingdom. Seeing dozens of Bigmoms descending from the sky, Marine executives were shocked. The strength produced by the Flying Kingdom is not inferior to the strongest man-made Seraphim created by the government, and the upper limit is even much higher. After all, Seraphim's lineage is essentially based on the former Shichibukai, so how could it possibly be comparable to the Bigmom Legion of the 4 Emperors as a template? What's more, Charlotte and Linlin are famous for the top constitutions like the Natural Destroyer and the Steel Balloon. It's not just the Bigmom Legion that comes with the changing situation. Nami arrived on Zeus with the weather that had turned into a howling wind, and her sister Nuo Kagao was being supported by the government's beast army at this time, as if Nuo Kagao was their loyal and filial master. At the same time, Lafitte, Mihawk, Katakuri, Black Maria, Zoro, and other royal aces and retainers that are truly famous in the Flying Kingdom also appeared. They didn't seem to want to reverse the situation when they dispatched it this time, but to drag us here. The Chief of Staff, Crane Sao, didn't even dispatch the army to the Flying Kingdom, and the aces of Yudingfan didn't have all the combat power to go out, and then said, I'm afraid their real goal is the holy place you mentioned, Mariajoy. Attack with all your strength and annihilate them at all costs. Saint Satan only gave a cold order to this. The unpredictable actions and goals of the Faikong Kingdom had already made him not want to think too much. He just wanted to solve everything on Shui Shenxing Island as soon as possible and then return to the Holy Land. Now their Marine still has a battle strength of nearly 200,000, while the group of evil forces from Shuishen Star Island who came here for fame only has less than 60,000 left, and Albuff's master's battle strength is only a few 100,000 degree. Only the war weapons of the Flying Kingdom in the appearance of less than 100 elites. It is absolutely impossible to reverse the situation of this battle, especially this time. The Marines and the government are all absolutely elite, and the numbers far exceed the number in the Summit War period. More than double. Fortunately, the upper limit of that group of BIGMOM legions is only the rank of the Emperor's lieutenant, not the 4 Emperors level, and they will not use the level of tyrants. Otherwise, even if this number comes, everything is really hard to say. After Saint Satan, the highest level controller, opened his mouth, Seraphim and giant war weapons attacked the center of Waterstar Island, where the Flying Kingdom descended, more recklessly and violently than before. In an instant, there are countless lasers waiting on them, and they don't care about the beast agents controlled by them. Sheesh. Countless lasers came, but slowly took out the black knife Yi from behind. Mihawk directly drew out the knife and slashed, and the already superb sword intent instantly cut all the attacks in the air. Mihawk. Seeing the appearance of the friend who kept exercising sword skills with him in his youth, the red-haired face became a little unhappy. That guy's sword skills are not inferior to his strong ones at all. Brush. Thinking like this, a figure suddenly broke into his king's perception, coming with a terrifying slash. The redhead quickly turned around to fight. Boom. The two domineering attacks collided together, violently blowing away the surrounding pirate marines. But Zoro, who was full of fighting spirit, unleashed the 3-sword style and attacked Hongfa frantically. The aftermath of each blow caused cracks tens of meters deep to break in the ground around Hongfa. Resisting all of Zoro's attacks with just one hand, even the redhead can hardly maintain an attitude of ease. Looking at Zoro, who is only in his 20s, the red-haired once again felt the horror of Maud's talent discovery, but the enemy is the enemy, and he didn't intend to hold back anything. The red-haired most terrifying conquerors vented all, then he displayed the sword skill that his captain had given him. God avoids. Countless terrifying conquerors were compressed among them, and even the blow that Shendu wanted to avoid slammed heavily on Zoro's handle. The unstoppable attack from the top bully directly overwhelmed Zoro's attack, instantly blasting the opponent away like a cannonball. Seeing this, Ben Beckman, who is also top-notch, would not let this opportunity go. He concentrated his powerful armed weapons on the musket and blasted directly at Zoro in the air. The bullet was fired in the air, and Zoro, who reacted, quickly cut it in half. Beckman's pupils shrank. This guy. Can he still react in the air after receiving a blow like Shanks? After taking a move from God, Zoro landed firmly on the ground, and Zoro shook his trembling arm because of the resistance. Don't rush forward. Our main purpose this time is not to attack, but to protect Karina. Just when Zoro slowed down and planned to continue attacking, Kotaku, who appeared here at some time, opened his mouth and said, "Is that Karina the key to the opponent's operation?" The redhead also had an answer in his heart when he heard the words, and Ben Beckman beside him also took the opportunity to take out the phone bug as if to convey the message. Put away those useless little thoughts. No matter what you do now, it is useless. Witnessing Beckman's actions like this, Katakuri said lightly. No, it should be you who are doing useless work, the red hair said. Even without counting his red hair pirates, Marine and the group of Seraphim, Garp Sengoku, Admiral, Celestial Dragon's Shield and other top powerhouses are definitely not something that the Flying Kingdom that is not fully attacking now can compete with. Katakuri didn't reply, but just looked at the beautiful figure with long white hair in the air at this moment. The red hair also looked up, and he had some impressions of that figure. Not only because the other party is the world's #1 singer who often appears in newspapers, but also because this status is what his daughter once dreamed of and fought for. It's just a singer. Why does it appear here? Wait, her name seems to be Karina Tuan. The world's #1 singer appeared on the battlefield where the whole world was watching, so it was natural that she was the first to attract everyone's attention. Soon Marine and the people in the government discovered that after Karina appeared, the surrounding BIGMOM Legion and the combat forces of the Flying Kingdom stopped their offensive operations, and instead guarded under Karina just like the security personnel at the concert. Surrounding space. Hey, hello. Are you kidding me? This kind of battle that determines the direction of the world. Will a singer hold a concert here halfway? What are you kidding? How can I let my Princess Karina participate in such a dangerous place? What are those bastards in the Flying Kingdom thinking? And Marine, don't touch Princess Karina. She is just a singer. The people who watched the live broadcast immediately sent out several different reactions. There are puzzles, doubts, ridicule and teasing, but most of them are the worry and anger of Karina fans. The audience level of the world's #1 singer is by no means just talk. Attack her. Immediately. a marine general shouted that all actions related to the Flying Kingdom may lead to unexpected consequences, and will not allow this to happen. Countless voices from people all over the world immediately sent countless guns and shells attacking Karina in the air. At this level, neither Bygmom nor his retainers and companions made a move. I am the #1 singer in the world. And Karina took a deep breath, and at some point, a headset appeared near her mouth, and then countless spotlights appeared around her, covering her. At the same time, accompanied by a piece of music hummed, the whole body flickered with dazzling brilliance, resisting all the attacks coming towards her. From now on, everyone doesn't need to worry. The melodious singing voice came from Karina's mouth, with countless colorful halos, rushing towards the entire aquatic star island and its surroundings. There is no need to be anxious, everything, unknown and incomprehensible, everyone's happiness will come true in my music, in the efforts of the Flying Kingdom, and in the dream of Lord Mod. With Karina's beautiful music, countless people watching the live broadcast and many fans who were worried about it all showed extremely intoxicated expressions. And with the melodious singing, the light of Karina's whole body finally bloomed, wrapped in a gorgeous blue and white dress, and she looked more noble and beautiful under the twinkling stars. Along with the change of clothes on her body, a long river of singing formed by music notes suddenly appeared behind her. Under its feet, an ocean of music erupted, and countless animals dancing with joy and laughter danced up and down in the air. At the same time, night warriors formed from musical notes appeared on the sky continent where the Flying Kingdom is located. This is that Karina's ability. The people in Marine and the government were all stunned. The power and gorgeous effects created out of thin air really amazed people. And under the display of this ability, only Saint Satan and the group of red hair pirates showed a helpless, gloomy and angry expression. Order everyone, immediately cut off the live broadcast all over the world, that ability can affect the entire world-class ability. The roar from Satan Saint came from the powerless reply of the CPs, Master 5 Elders, we are not the only ones who have the live broadcast equipment, and some people seem to be unable to control their bodies. Damn it, is it too late? I also felt that my subconscious mind had changed, and Saint Satan was furious. He really didn't expect that the ability to destroy the world that had appeared for hundreds of years would appear in Mod's hands. I don't know the terrifying effect of this ability, but I know that this fruit is the ability that her daughter Uta also showed with music on the boat. It is the song fruit that Uta eats and owns. This time, not only the redhead, but also all the old members couldn't sit still. Especially the memories brought by the ability, it also reminds them that the Flying Kingdom has the ability to plunder the fruits of others. It's like the Bygmom Legion that now uses diamonds and phoenixes. Answer me. Where did that guy's abilities come from? At this moment, under extreme anger, the leaked conquerors already caused the sea to be rolled up in the ground to be broken layer by layer. Directly locked Zoro and Katakuri in front of them with the terrifying conquerors, and the red hair glared at them like an angry beast. Who knows, but that guy's ability was possessed years ago. Zoro replied lightly. This answer made the redhead even more difficult to accept, because it also meant that his daughter Uta had already left him. Mode. Flying Kingdom. The red hair let out an angry roar, and the fierce conquerors instantly condensed on the griffin that he clenched tightly, almost at the speed of opening his eyes. The red hair directly slashed at Zoro and Katakuri. This blow was so fast that people couldn't react, it just cut off the two of them in an instant, and at the same time, there was also the land cut off by this attack. It's all useless. It started as early as Karina's concert, and it's all over here. Katakuri and Zoro, who were cut in half by this blow, unexpectedly appeared not far away intact, and at the same time, the broken continent returned to its original state. It seemed that the Shuishen Qingdao under his feet and the furious attack were just illusions. And it is true. Not only the redheads, but all the people of Waterstar Island were puzzled. Almost everyone except the Seraphim and the Bygmom Legion who were still in action found strange anomalies after their attacks. The next moment, many people all looked at Karina who was still singing. All the weirdness began with her singing. Feeling more and more eyes, and the awareness of the whole world attracted by her singing, Karina showed a sweet smile. Everyone. Now is the new concert time. Karina's figure jumped high, and under the flashing neon lights, she stood directly at the highest point in the sky, and then all the music quickly turned into radiant energy, enveloping the scene. Under this, the environment of Shuishensheng Island changed rapidly. The next moment, all the Marines and government soldiers from Shuishen Island discovered that they had appeared in a huge coliseum at some point, surrounded by tens of thousands of meters of high circular platforms, and all of them were sitting on the ground, filled with countless spectators. What's happening here? What the hell is going on? Aren't I at home? Why did I suddenly appear in this place? Hey. Look at the following. Aren't those people who are live broadcasting on Shui Shen Qingdao, the government marine, and people from Titan and Flying Kingdom? Woo! Princess Karina appeared in front of me. In the dome-shaped building formed by the concert in the Colosseum, countless people exploded into a commotion that almost enveloped the whole world because of the strange situation. This can be said to cover the consciousness of the people who watched the live broadcast almost all over the world. After countless people spoke, it made the government and marine in the Colosseum below feel like they were in a deafening ocean. Chief of Staff Crane looked up at Karina, who was surrounded by stars, and said in shock, "Is that guy's ability? It's weird. I don't know what ability restricts us. Even if we use hockey to resist, we still can't leave this weird area." Garp followed Kaido. As long as there is an existence in New World, they all know that besides seawater and seastone, the ability to resist devil fruit is hockey, a kind of magical power king. But only those who have reached the level of a strong man in this kind of power will know that devil fruit's ability can be offset by its own powerful hockey. In this regard, Garp, who has trained armament hockey to almost the peak, has an absolute right to speak. So now listening to Garp's answer, whether it is Akainu or Sengoku and other marine executives, they all show unbelievable expressions. Because that ability is a world-class ability that can ignore hockey and ignore distance. The voice of the answer came from the direction of the government, and the marine executives looked back. All of them were shocked. What appeared in front of them was actually 5 elders other than Saint Satan. Blonde 5 elders and kimono 5 elders. Sure enough. You have also been involved. It was Satan Shang who answered, but he didn't seem surprised by it from his words. That ability, we didn't expect it to appear at this time, the blonde 5 elders said indifferently. So what's going on here? Can you guys explain it? We were on the battlefield of Waterstar Island before, Sengoku said. The situation related to the direction of the world also made the former marshal who was almost semi-retired somewhat unable to sit still. The war on Waterstar Island. Since this ability was cast, it has basically lost its meaning. The kimono 5 elders gritted his teeth, and then explained, that guy is a user with the ability to destroy the world. As soon as these words came out, the faces of all marine and government personnel changed immediately. The ability of this fruit, as the name suggests, is the ability to create various things through singing, including this dream. Dream? Beluzolino captured the key information. Does that mean everything here is fake? Only the venue is fake. The real reason why this ability can destroy the world is that the ability user can use singing to pull the listener's spirit into the illusion, ignoring hockey and distance. The blonde 5 elders glanced at the huge building that has never been seen in this world and the unpredictable audience. Although he did not continue to explain, as long as he is not a fool, he can know that the people who appear here are all affected by the live singing in the world people. That is to say, now, almost the spirits of people all over the world have been involved. The horror is not limited to these. Satan Shang added, when the spirit enters the virtual world, the body left in the real world will be manipulated by the capable person. This. Even among the elite, some marines and government soldiers fell to the ground after learning the news. Doesn't that mean that at this time, they stay in the real body, and they can be completely self-imposed by the other party's order? It's no wonder that after the activation of this ability, the Waterstar Island War has lost its meaning. Then doesn't this fruit have any weaknesses? Akainu couldn't help but ask, and his tone was even more difficult to calm down, not only because they were forced to be in such an aggrieved environment, but also the attitude of the 3-5 elders who seemed not to be nervous about it at all, as if they were not the responsibilities of these soldiers and the meaning of justice behind them are in mind. When the ability user falls into unconscious sleep, the illusion created by the singing will be automatically dispelled. To maintain this level of dream, the greater the physical strength required, the users recorded in history are therefore only maintaining the dream. It won't last 10 minutes. But with Mord's strategy, since this ability is displayed at this time, it is impossible to just let this effect last for 5 minutes. If she takes the sleepless mushroom and dies while retaining her consciousness, this dream will last forever. The presence. Are you kidding? Akainu yelled angrily. It would be better not to say this to solve the problem, which would damage the morale of the army even more. That's right. I haven't enjoyed the reward Lord Mod gave me after the victory, so I won't die so easily. It seemed that all Marines' remarks were clearly heard by Karina from high above the sky, and the other parties smiled and looked down at the Colosseum. So let me tell you, there is another solution. After speaking, a black music book flew to Karina. The next moment, she opened her mouth, the heart hit by the rainstorm is lost and lost, where to go? At this moment, Karina's eyes suddenly changed, but her body continued to sing. The hymn of redemption that liberates the spell that weaves the curse and subverts death. Come and draw a terminator for this chaotic era. Boom. At this moment, a terrifying aura brewed from Karina's body. The ominous purple mist began to spread in all directions in an instant, and countless singing black notes began to appear. Come and draw a terminator for this chaotic era. The song reaches a passionate part, and the monster behind Karina gradually takes shape. Wearing a top hat, with yellow fluffy hair, the body is composed of various musical instruments, and the arms are like the keys of a piano. Seeing this monster, the red hair pirates couldn't sit still anymore. It was the culprit that separated their captain and daughter. In the marine, Huang Mu looked at the huge monster in midair and exclaimed in surprise, monsters whose music is completely different from that group. Logically speaking, with his strength, he would not be afraid of such things. After all, he has seen sea kings of thousands of meters. But this feeling is completely different from these. The monster just exists there, which makes people feel the chill from the bottom of their hearts, and a sense of fear arises spontaneously. This kind of fear is not just because of the monster's obvious strength, but as if it is facing a monster made of incomprehensible and malicious things. That's the malice of human beings, the aggregation of all negative emotions. Tot musica. Saint Satan said with a sullen face. The demon king of song who has been sealed in Erigia for a long time. The devil? Elegia. Not to mention the more mysterious concept of the devil, everyone present is no stranger to the elegia mentioned by Saint Satan. After all, the red hair of the four emperors was first famous in the world, because he destroyed the whole of Erigia. As soon as he thought of the red hair, he saw a red figure full of conquerors bestowed on the whole body rushing up to the sky, approaching the devil of song in an instant. Concentrating an unstoppable offensive, the red hair dragged scattered red lightning and bombarded the demon king's forehead. Then, boom! Waves burst, the sky shook, and the wind howled. Before the turbulent smoke dissipated, the demon king's huge claws volleyed towards the red hair. This attack was quickly blocked by the rest of the red-haired group. But more people are concerned about redhead attacks than this. Useless. Huang Mu's eyes widened, and he was hit with all his strength by a monster man like red hair, and the monster didn't even show a single bit of damage. This is the spiritual world created by those who have the ability to sing and sing fruit. Everything here is decided by that guy, and that devil king can exist between reality and illusion at the same time. If he doesn't attack him in both worlds at the same time, if he attacks, he is invincible. It's completely invincible now. Is this another way that guy said? Besides Garp, he also couldn't help saying loudly after listening to the words of Saint Satan. We are all in the spiritual world now, who can stop us outside? Saint Satan and the other 5 elders were speechless. In addition to explaining the fruit of the song and the devil of the song, there are some things and existences that cannot be known by people other than them, especially this spiritual world can almost include people all over the world. And precisely because of this, this is the reason why 5 elders and others are still not panic after being pulled into this spiritual world. However, although there is no problem with his own safety, the world-class impact caused by this ability is indeed too great. I'm afraid the gentleman at this moment, inexplicable agitation sounded in the hearts of the 5 elders. Immediately afterwards, the voice that made them be regarded as the highest belief sounded in my mind. Gold, fire, and earth. Just 3 simple words. The 5 elders disappeared directly from this strange spiritual world and returned to the original world. Located in Mariajoy. Blonde 5 elders and kimono 5 elders regained consciousness. 5 elders took a breath, quickly smashed the live phone bug, and rushed towards the ugly seat above Pengu City. On the throne, standing like a holy sword, wearing a long robe and a crown on his head, sitting on the throne symbolizing supreme power, the dozing I.M. slowly opened his eyes after feeling the arrival of the 2 planets. I.M. looked indifferently at the 2 people who were already kneeling at the bottom of the steps, and walked down calmly. Step. Step. In this extremely empty and quiet room, the sound of I.M.'s footsteps sounded like a ringing bell, beating on the hearts of the 2 old men, and as the sound gradually increased, the figure approached, buried his head in the ground more humbly, and respected and worshipped I.M. even more. The end has come. The 5 elders immediately raised their heads when they heard the words, looked at I.M. and said in unison with a trembling tone, "It's my lack of ability." In this regard, I.M. didn't say anything on this point, but continued, "The lights of Shuishenshing Island will be extinguished from history." On the other side, they also suddenly realized that the 5 elders in front of them had disappeared. They thought it was Karina who had finally attacked them in the spiritual world, and their hearts tightened. Karina, who is looking forward to dominating the world, simply doesn't know where to start. "I can only go up," Akainu said coldly. "If this is the spiritual world, that guy must also be spiritually aware. Just eliminate the guy's spirit directly, maybe there will be some turning point." No. Elimination of spirit does not necessarily mean unconsciousness. If something happens, we will stay in this world forever, Crane said immediately. Aren't we just waiting to die here, just waiting to die? After Akainu replied, terrifying lava spread from his body, and quickly hit Karina in the air. The marshal made a move, and most of the Hawks, as well as Marine and government soldiers who didn't want to sit still, also made a move together. At the same time, the redhead was attacking Karina. And it seems to remember that Uda lost consciousness because of a coma, and that Demon King and ability disappeared. The redhead immediately changed his mind, his eyes sank, and the next moment he burst out with a violent aura. Without holding back any hands, the redhead unleashes his conquerors directly towards Karina in the sky. The attacks of the two big forces were all directed at Karina, which immediately affected the minds of countless audiences. After suddenly coming to this inexplicable world, and the uncomfortable and frightening Demon King summoned by Karina, countless people hope that the Marine and the government below can solve this situation. Only Karina's die-hard fans still uttered worried cries for their idols, and then quarreled with others in the auditorium at an altitude of several thousand meters. Don't you know yet? In this world, all attacks are useless to me. Karina hummed a little song. The music quickly turned into a barrier, and countless terrifying attacks and conqueror's shocks were completely offset between them. Even the invincible Demon King of Songs didn't make a move. I didn't expect someone to be able to break free from my ability. Since everyone can't wait, let's have a world-class live broadcast for everyone now. High above the sky, as Karina's words fell, a huge screen almost covering the entire concert appeared. The picture in it is exactly Shuishen Xingdao. In the picture, it is Saint Satan who has regained his spirit, and begins to order the group of man-made weapons and war bodies that are already on standby to attack Karina and others. In the face of this situation, Titan and his companions did not let Titan and his companions take action. Instead, the Marine and government soldiers who had previously fought against the enemy attacked 5 elders and others while being thrown into the air. With the identity entered, the weapons will not actively attack these friendly troops. But in the mouth of the 5 elders who have absolute command power, these situations can be replaced directly. So under the command of 5 elders' cold voice, countless Marines who were killed by seraphim and war weapons couldn't help shouting, "Are you kidding me?" before their bodies instantly collapsed in the spiritual world. No matter what happens, except for the high-level Marines at important levels, all the Marines controlled by Karina were smashed into slag by the lasers of seraphim and other weapons. Although this situation also happened in previous wars. But at that time, they were fighting with pirates and evil forces, and their respective situations were relatively chaotic. Nature and what is witnessed in the spiritual world today are 2 levels, not to mention that there are many people from the world who are directly drawn in. A horrified uproar immediately resounded in this spiritual world. Similarly, the faces of the Marines are not very good looking. It's not just those who serve the government who feel that their lives are treated like nothing. It's more because the 5 elders seem to have a way to ensure that they leave this horrible world, but they don't care about them. Due to the 2 reasons, plus the environment with the evil intentions of the Demon King of Songs, many Marines naturally developed resentment and anger towards the 5 elders and even the government. Crusade against the evil forces that endanger the world is fine, but because of this situation, the law of death is simply unacceptable for Marines like them who bear justice. Sure enough, no matter how powerful he is, Marine is still just a dog in the hands of the government that can be thrown away at any time. The mocking sound came from the air, and Karina smiled and pointed at the scene in the picture. It was a completely different expression from the usual sweetness, a pitiful yet contemptuous smile. It's so pitiful that I can't help but sing a song for you. The singing voice was quickly conveyed to everyone through the earphones next to their mouths, and then there were countless curses from Marines. Not towards Karina, but towards the world government, celestial dragons, 5 elders and others to vent their anger at the moment. When the serious Marine starts berating the government, the effect is extraordinary, let alone now the whole world is watching. The next moment, also because of the tyranny brought by the celestial dragons, the general public all over the world broke out. Countless obscenities were spread, which almost overwhelmed the huge offensive launched by Hongfa and others against the Demon King of Songs. He was the first to use the cleansing ability to clear up Karina's demagogic singing voice. The Chief of Staff, Crane, used the ability for his old friend Garp and other high-level officials. Superior. Enough. Shut up, old man. Under the sound of cursing, there was a secret roar that resounded through the sky. The dazzling gold light appeared in these words, and there was only a huge golden light shining. A huge gold giant Buddha, with angry eyes, suddenly raised his right hand palm to Karina who was facing the sky. Whether it is the Marine or the government, they are all dedicated to protecting the peace of the world for the people of the world. I will never allow you to use this dirty ability to confuse others here. The giant gold palm is extremely huge, and the texture of the palm is still clearly visible hundreds of meters away, but the speed does not match the size of the body at all. In the blink of an eye, it spans a distance of over 1,000 meters in the sky. As if it is about to smash everything into a pulp, the shockwave crashed towards Sha Nuo. Snapped. Karina snapped her fingers, but she didn't use her ability to stop it. Instead, Sengoku, who controlled the real world, fell to the seaside. Even if the world is different, the sense of powerlessness brought by the seawater in the real world still makes Sengoku's golden Buddha dissipate in the blink of an eye, turning back into a white-haired old man and falling back to the ground in embarrassment. This situation naturally makes the previous righteous words lose any effect. In the real world, Karina, who was mainly trained as a singer, might even be able to beat an ordinary school-level marine. But in the field created by her own ability, whether it is the former marshal or the so-called Admiral 4 Emperors, she can subdue them all with one hand. Sincerely, Karina felt unspeakable excitement in her heart, feeling no less than the feeling of being favored by Lord Maud. The only pity is that Bowen's division of the top world needs to create a terrifying energy zone. You must know that she is now taking the top recovery potion after Man Shuili's awakening, as well as the slowing blessing brought by the strengthening pure gold. Maintaining this world for an hour still consumes almost 3 years of her lifespan. If there were no such effects, perhaps she would be exhausted or her life would end in less than an hour. But her ability is just for this moment today. Looking at the messy marine and the government below, and feeling the voices of the people of the world that are beginning to change due to emotional infection, this is how she was hand-picked and trained by Lord Maud. The trump card role that has been lurking for several years only for this critical moment. On the screen, Saint Satan, who was still planning to use seraphim and war weapons to put Karina into a coma, was startled suddenly, and then seemed to have made a decision to abandon the marine and the powerful forces of the government, and began to order Bartholomew's blazing the angel casts powers on him. The rapid teleportation from the meatball fruit made Saint Satan disappear directly in the command field of Shuishenshing Island. At the same time, both seraphim and war weapons also stopped attacking the Hypnosis Marine and retreated in one direction. Those weapons are retreating. Is this the end of the battle and escape like this? Sure enough, this is the government. What about these Marines? Redhead and Marine couldn't help but turn black when they saw this situation, and the same was true for Marine's top management. No matter how high-sounding they said before, it became a so-called joke after Marine and the group of government agents were abandoned. Immediately after the evacuation of Satan Saint, the Flying Kingdom, which was supposed to be the winner, also began to evacuate regardless, and seemed to have no idea about the defeated Marine and others. Soon the screen in the spiritual world changed to a bird's eye view of Shuishenshing Island. At this time, everyone discovered that there were particularly bright spots of light in the dim sky of Shuishenshingdao and the surrounding tens of kilometers. It was filled with a sacred and chilling atmosphere. I haven't waited for anyone to ask what it is because of doubts. That incomparably oppressive light descended from the sky. It seems to be the sanction sent down by the gods in the sky, washing away the evils floating in this area. There are exactly 16 sacred sanction beams. It is exactly the same number as the holy killing bomb expressed by Doflamingo, but once again, it is not a conceptual level at all. This is a true representation of the divine punishment from the gods. Everything on the island, together with the surrounding tens of kilometers of sea area, everything, all vanished under the falling of this beam of light. The color of the sky and the earth changed, and the sea trembled. Countless unpredictable seawater, along with the water star island, evaporated directly in this blow, leaving behind a huge sea hole tens of kilometers deep. What's going on? In the spiritual world, countless people looked at the huge empty pothole in the picture, and they couldn't help opening their mouths and eyes wide, showing incredible expressions. Destroy medium-sized islands covering hundreds of kilometers in one blow. The speed of the destruction, the terrifying range, or the powerful power. This kind of world-destroying attack is simply unheard of in today's world. Immediately afterwards, the people in the auditorium were also shocked to find that everyone in the Colosseum below, together with Karina and the Demon King of Songs, had disappeared. This situation is not limited to the present, but also the real world outside the screen. The Marine and the government are gone, and Air Kingdom and Al-Buff's Titans. Nonsense. How could humans survive this level of attack? Not to mention the speed and range, it is impossible for anyone to escape in time. No. What a joke, my Royal Highness Princess Karina. What the hell is this? Devil fruit ability? Or some powerful weapon? I don't know. Isn't the most important question to think about who is responsible for this kind of attack? With such a capability, no country in the world can resist it. It should be the world government. Didn't the high-level executives leave in advance before the attack came? And this kind of ability, no matter how you think about it, can only be possessed by the world government. If the Feikong Kingdom or other forces, because of this, the layout of Yinhai has long been in chaos. If it's really a world government, Marine. The aftermath of the terrifying power trembled in everyone's hearts like an ancient bell that kept ringing. Some people were surprised and speechless, and some people recalled the occupation of the island and started a discussion. The voices were heard one by one. Whether it was the common people or the nobles, they seemed to have abandoned their status at this moment. Let's talk. Of course, there are also some silent royal families, not only the kings of the non-joining countries, but even the kings of the joining countries at the World Summit are forced to be drawn into this world because they care about the government and the marine. However, they did not expect that all kinds of situations were beyond their imagination. The ruthless abandonment and attack of the world government directly wiped out the entire marine army. And the terrifying attack that could wipe out the entire island. For the world government, the kings of all countries are more afraid, but under the circumstances brought about by this terrorist force, these kings also began to have doubts about the world government. After all, the purpose of the world government is for all countries to form an organization to jointly govern and maintain the world, not to mention the so-called empty throne. All of these are just seeds of doubt about the world government. At least this power really comes from the world government. Kings like them dare not be dissatisfied with the government. It's really terrifying, that attack. That's right, everyone. The sweet voice came again from the air in this world. Even before seeing clearly the voice reappearing under the spotlight, listening to the familiar voice, countless fans suddenly became excited. It's Her Royal Highness Princess Karina. Sure enough, I knew it. This world has not disappeared. How could something happen to Princess Karina? That guy isn't dead. Bastard. Who are you talking about dead? Even Princess Karina won't die if you die. Bah. Your Royal Highness, she's just a bad singer. It's because of her that we are imprisoned here. That guy in the city is from the Kingdom of Flying Sky, an evil member of the sea. Questions and curses came from every corner. In this regard, Karina showed a sweet smile. After all, she herself debuted as the world's #1 singer in the Flying Kingdom. When it comes to cause and effect, the country is naturally the first. Besides, she never said that she is a good person. The world government's attack is really powerful. Thanks to the blessing over there, the kingdom's warships suffered a lot of damage, and I almost couldn't come back. Karina gave a symbolic sigh of relief, but she began to deliberately reveal information in her life. But the second half is true. It's also thanks to Master Mod who put Bree and other space-capable users on standby on the flying battleship in advance just in case. Otherwise she would never have time to escape in that range. It's just true that they lost several flying battleships, as well as the group of Al-Baf allies who also failed to escape in the future. But she really didn't expect the situation to really happen, and it was the most outrageous situation among the several situations of Mod Tianren. Karina is really feeling the loss of control over those in Marine and the dissipating spirit of those in her world. Backquote, but it doesn't matter. The losses here will be returned by the world government in the future. Karina's voice began to slowly take on a musical rhythm, and the ability to bewitch by singing was activated covertly again. I saw his hands spread out, and the picture on the upper screen changed again. What came into view was a high sky surrounded by a sea of clouds. Then, the roar began to sound from above the sky. A gigantic creature above the cloud layer flew down with a bang, and after tearing apart the cloud layer, I finally saw its appearance clearly. That's a boat. A black metal battleship. The length of the ship is several thousand meters, and it is a colossus that even the Titan warships cannot compare with. There are countless gun barrels on the hull of the huge battleship, densely packed. Just a look makes people feel out of place. Of course, compared to the hull, the most eye-catching thing is the huge muzzle extending from the bow, which is nearly 1,000 meters long. Just by looking at it, people can clearly feel the image of their own tiny ant compared to it. And at the front end of the muzzle, the strongest king in the world, the King of Flying, is standing on it. That is, immediately afterwards, the complexions of countless audience members looking at the screen changed drastically. In front of the unknown warship controlled by Mod is the peak of the red line. And this place, no one will feel strange. After all, this is where the headquarters of the world government is located, the Holy Land of Mariajoy. God. Unexpectedly, this is not even a situation that Waterstar Island can compare to Claw. The Flying Kingdom actually wants to attack the headquarters of the world government? The situation is completely different from 800 years ago. Hee hee, Joey boy. I don't know if the scene you predicted at that time will be the same as it is now. This time, it is bound to be the same as it was 800 years ago. Under your leadership, we will win a natural and complete victory. No matter who the enemy is, as long as you lead us, victory is a matter of course. Between the throne, listening to Im's voice that seemed to be muttering to himself, the 2 elders who knelt and half-knelt on the ground immediately showed their lofty trust in I. Although the process of 800 years ago is unknown, the result is that this lord led the ancestors of today's celestial dragons to victory. Now, of course, it will be like this. Regarding the attitude shown by the two, I just smiled. Immediately after she raised her head, her eyes seemed to have seen the scene outside Pengu City in the distance. Coming. The 5 elders raised their heads in horror. After a brief shock, they hurriedly got up and rushed out in apology. The enemy is attacking. Prepare to fight. It's not good. Master 5 elders. The guards of the Holy Land and the coalition forces of the allied countries have fallen into a strange coma, and they can't wake up no matter how they scream. The face of the blonde 5 elders, who was instructing the staff to arrange, suddenly changed, and he immediately pressed the reporter with a terrifying aura. What? What happened? Where is Luo or Yabe? Isn't she responsible for this incident? We were unable to contact Gongshang Luo or Yabe, and all the servants of that lord disappeared. The 2 elders took a breath. Those are the most important combat forces in the Holy Land, accounting for hundreds of thousands of people. Without these, there are only less than 10,000 defenders left in the Holy Land. What kind of situation is this? Just when the blonde 5 elders was about to continue talking, he suddenly felt an atmosphere that was gradually becoming more dignified from Xuanlai. In the sky that is already very close to Mariajoy, Pluton is advancing at the extreme of the sky at an extremely fast speed under the power of mode. Maud looked ahead. At the top of the red land surrounded by clouds, the white town was already very clear. Finally reached. At this time, around the Mariajoy, there were only nearly 1,000 guards in charge of guarding, and they all looked at the city-sized battleship that appeared in the outer sky with unconcealed horror. Among them, countless elites of the Flying Kingdom gathered on the deck, and Mord, the strongest man in the world, was looking at it from a distance. This man is really here. The celestial dragons, who claim to be the descendants of the Creator, have erased the century-old history of the world from the world with great power. 800 years since then, the Holy Land of Mariajoy is also because of its profound history, and as the residence of celestial dragons, it symbolizes its superiority and inviolability. But now, with the army led by Maud, the King of Flying, these symbols seem to have become history. The celestial dragons and world government, which originally dominated the Red Line, will face the first frontal threat and shake their unchallenged status. 5 elders, holding the kimono of the first-generation ghost, stared at the enemies coming from afar, especially when they saw the ancient weapon that had been dormant for many years in memory. Their pupils were a little dilated due to astonishment. This is one of the 3 ancient weapons recorded by the ancestors of the past dynasties, Pluto. But soon, the 5 elders stabilized his mind. After forcibly maintaining a calm state of mind in the face of danger, he looked directly at Maud with cold murderous intent. Feeling the undisguised aura of the 2 elders, Maud also felt the strength of these supreme powers, which was almost only stronger than the 4 emperors' admiral. Especially the bald head holding a knife, his whole body exudes a tyrannical aura like that of Shira, which is very in line with the identity of the first-generation Goosh he holds in his hand. The blonde 5 elders looked at Maud and said coldly, "Maud, the biggest mistake I made was to underestimate your threat and ambition. I knew it would develop into what it is today. Back then they should directly send an army to strangle you. I've heard this kind of words no less than 100 times, and it's as if you can do it once." Maud looked at 5 elders, his tone was full of sarcasm, and then his pupils stood up. In an instant, the invisible fluctuations containing the terrifying momentum passed through the bodies of nearly 10,000 defenders in front of them with lightning speed. Silently, the defenders' brains seemed to be hit hard, their bodies became stiff instantly, and then their eyes quickly turned white. Immediately afterwards, all the guards fell to the ground one after another like dominoes. Pung pung pung. The sound of heavy objects falling to the ground sounded one after another. After a while, none of the defenders was spared, and they all fell to the ground and passed out. Now, it seems that the Holy Land Mariajoy doesn't have any soldiers? It's you? Could it be that it's Roeljabi Palace? Listening to Maud's speech, the attitude of the 2 elders suddenly changed, and their faces changed. They didn't know whether the Luo or Yabe Palace was betrayed or was attacked by the Flying Kingdom, but no matter what happened, it was terrible. Because this represents the headquarters of the world government, the holy place of the celestial dragons has been infiltrated by the enemy without their knowledge. How? This feeling of being infiltrated by the enemy inside. Maud showed a playful smile and said, "Since it has reached the so-called most critical moment of the world government, the king behind you should also appear, the owner of the empty main seat." Under the smile, a ray of red light flashed from the corner of Maud's eyes, and then the terrifying aura carried observation hockey and swept away. Maud's eyes seemed to look beyond the defense line built by the 5 elders in the army, looking at the supreme power of the ancient city. At the same time, it has left the throne that stands like a holy sword. I am, who was stroking a huge straw hat in the secret room, suddenly froze. Seemingly feeling the sight of Maud's exploration, a coldness appeared in the hawk-like rippled eyes, and he turned to look at Maud on the periphery. The line of sight also seems to have crossed all obstacles, and meets Maud. The moment Maud's words fell, the faces of the 2-5 elders changed again, and a powerful aura and killing intent intertwined in one place in an instant, pressing on Maud like a stormy sea. The existence of that adult is a real taboo. How did this guy Maud know? Could it be that he went to that raftel? Or did he secretly collect those historical texts to learn some information? It's just that no matter how the killing intent and momentum poured out, Maud was completely unmoved by it. Are you still afraid of these so-called buried truths? Or, just relying on your stinky fish and rotten shrimps to prevent the real ruler and trump card of the world government from being revealed? Can you have the ability to stop me? Maud raised the corners of his mouth and spread out the sheep. In an instant, the air around him turned into a gust of wind as he wished, whistling endlessly, resounding through the air. An extremely overbearing aura invaded at the same time. Just being caught by Maud's gaze, the 2-5 elders suddenly felt an unbearable sense of panic and suffocation, and even the killing intent and anger before were forced to fade away. This kind of feeling, they only felt on that adult body. You actually reached that step? The astonished question received no answer. On the contrary, the huge evil battleship with a whole body as black as ink under Maud's feet made a start sound like the roar of a beast as if it was injected with energy. The already huge muzzle expanded rapidly under Maud's Momo ability, forming two magnetic tracks that were almost the size of the ship's hull, and the surging energy raged in it. After the increase in acceleration of the magnetic track, energy lights that are more powerful than those in Legendary that can destroy an island with one shot began to emerge and flicker in the muzzle. The 5 elders were shocked. They never expected that Maud would directly use Pluton's ability. If this shot hits Mariajoy, no kidding, it will definitely destroy the holy land of celestial dragons. Not to mention the extremely dreadful Momo boost. At this moment, the same suffocating and oppressive aura came from the depths of Mariajoy. Bump. Under the strong wind, the sky was full of pitch-black lightning, spreading to the end of the sky like dancing black snakes. A huge Uzumaki covering the sky appeared in the sky, and the black and blue flocculent clouds were mixed with disturbing atmosphere. The dark clouds were all over the place, as if there were 10 huge black shadows slowly forming among them. Immediately afterwards, terrifying elemental energies gathered in it visible to the naked eye, just like Pluton just gathering together brought an extraordinary sense of oppression. Like the 10 Six Paths beams, the same attack as the one that destroyed Shui Shenxing Island, countless beams condensed on the Pluton battleship, and the terrifying energy crashed down instantly. Seeing this, Maud communicated that the new ship spirit controlling Pluton also launched a concentrated attack for a long time. Call out. The world in front of him was immediately filled with red and white lasers. Under the dazzling white light, countless energy waves swept away. An unprecedented violent shockwave exploded over the red line sea area. The terrifying shockwave condensed into a gigantic spherical shape and then rapidly spread to the surroundings. Wherever the laser light passed, all substances touched by it were directly annihilated and vaporized by the wave. Under this, the red lines all collapsed, and even the Holy Land Mariajoy was directly destroyed by the aftermath. Then, in the cloud and smoke of the explosion, a huge black shadow emerged from it. It's a floating warship. Even from a bombardment of this magnitude, it remained virtually intact. Invisible ripples enveloped the entire ship, and the translucent shield firmly protected the ship, making it intact even in such an attack. But many of the retainers on the Pluton battleship fell to the ground because of the terrifying energy tilt. Looking at the mushroom cloud soaring into the sky, all the Yuding fan aces couldn't help showing a shocked expression. With such power, this is a genuine ancient weapon capable of destroying the world. It is really hard to imagine that the ancients 800 years ago could develop such a terrifying weapon. And the one who can compete with Pluton is probably the mysterious Uranus. Standing firmly in front of the main gun of the Pluton battleship, Motor looked into the depths of the mushroom cloud that soared into the sky, and with a wave of his hand, the smoke and dust that was several meters thick was immediately swept away by Emperor Nang. In the fading smoke and dust, the huge black figure that appeared in the air before disappeared, replaced by a robed figure standing in front of the 2-5 elders. It has a very handsome face, looks very young, as if it is only in its 20s. Her entire body was covered in robes, so she couldn't tell what her figure was, and with her medium-sized appearance, it was impossible to distinguish between men and women. But those eyes are breathtaking, and have the same charm as Mihawk's Hawkeye eyes. Grown-ups. Looking at who appeared in front of them, the 2-5 elders lowered their heads in shame. In fact, as Maud said, they messed up everything, even like in the Valley of the Gods. If they hadn't been protected by Lord before, both of them might even be solved by Pluton. Not responding to the kowtow of the 2-5 elders, looked at Maud with indifference in his eyes, but Maud was the only one reflected in his pupils. Maud glanced at the other party with appreciative eyes, and after a while, he slowly said, "I thought you would hide until I witnessed that I destroyed Mariajoy and reappeared." Maud knew that this guy in front of him regarded his existence as an absolute taboo. Im's gaze remained unchanged, but in his indifferent pupils, there was a rippling like a deep pool of stagnant water, as if he knew what Maud was thinking. The cold voice began to resound. "Because you brought Pluto with you. For all the various things that have arisen because of this, it is enough to create another 100 years of history. In the spiritual world created by Karina, thanks to Hancock's soul storage, the events that happened in Mariajoy are still broadcast in the eyes of all audiences like a live broadcast. At this moment, people all over the world are looking at the huge screen in the sky, and their hearts are filled with various emotions. No one thought that the world government that has ruled the world for 800 years is all false in the end, and there is no so-called empty throne at all. The government that rules the world, after all, still has the real master behind it. I really miss it." Under the anxious atmosphere, suddenly sighed. "The confrontation with Pluton again is really like going back to the time when I was an enemy with Joey Boyan 800 years ago, but it doesn't matter whether it is a person or a thing, there is a huge difference from that fateful time." Maud looked directly at the other party and said, "What? It wasn't the so-called Joey boy who appeared, did you feel disappointed?" "Disappointment?" Shook his head, still indifferent to everything. "On the contrary, it is because of such an unexpected turn of events that I am rarely interested. You have been to that kingdom?" Bar. Without waiting for Maud to answer, continued to talk to himself. "That prophecy is not wrong. It is true that Joey Bowie's successor will appear in 800 years, but he is too weak, he doesn't even have a heart-complete resurrection. How can you talk about defeating me? It is rare that I woke up from a deep sleep because of this so-called period. However, your appearance is indeed worth waking up from that realization." As he said that, turned his attention back to Maud. "You have all the ambition, boldness, and strength, and you also put them into action, and finally brought this government to this situation. For hundreds of years, you still the first. I know your past, you are very similar to me, from forbearance to planning to success. This is how I have everything in this world step by step." "So?" Maud asked calmly. From his knowledge and perception, these compliments are not fake, but now the two sides are life and death enemies. "You are the guy who has brought me happiness again for so many years, besides Joey Boy." Im's eagle-eyed eyes did not hide the color of appreciation at the moment. "Become my collection, if you want, the world government is enough for you, and you can be in existence above those 5 people." Hearing this, the expressions of the 2-5 elders behind changed at the same time, and they couldn't help looking at Maud, but the other party obviously sneered when they heard the words of the Lord. "Since that's the case, then I have something to say," Maud said with a playful look. "To be honest, I am also very interested in you. If the so-called king of the world becomes my collection, it should also make people let's start with an indescribable sense of accomplishment. I sincerely extend an invitation to you. How about becoming a member of my flying kingdom? Although I can't give you the same conditions as you, one person is under one person and above 10,000 people, but the division of status after I established New World, I promise that there must be a seat for you by my side." "Maud, you bastard." Without waiting for Im's answer, the bald 5 elders figure beside him disappeared in an instant, and appeared in the air in the blink of an eye with an aura that was not inferior to any 4 emperors admiral. The first-generation ghost held in his hands exuded a blood-red demonic aura, and as soon as he made a move, he swung a few destructive blood-colored slash waves towards the Provence battleship with the terrifying aura of a great swordsman. There was annoyance at Maud's disrespectful words, but the attack seemed more like an opportunistic raid on Pluton. In the face of the bald 5 elders' violent attack, Maud turned a blind eye and didn't need him to take action at all. It seems that time suddenly jumped or accelerated, and a gust of wind swept across. Guillaume, who landed in the air at some time, had already drawn out his beloved sword Jinpira, and the sword of the bald 5 elders was completely disassembled. "Come. Guillaume, you bastard." The blonde 5 elders became annoyed, not only because the other party was the one who betrayed the government, but also felt pity and hatred for the fact that his current strength was almost as good as that old guy's. He didn't care about the sudden attack in the field at all, but because of Maud's words, rarely smiled, but he didn't know whether it was because he was very funny or out of anger. Winners and losers, but as I said, everything in this world belongs to me. There were only 2 5 elders around him, but Mord had more than tens of thousands of terrorist elites, and there were many strong men who were not weaker than the 5 elders. But at this moment, I is still calm and composed. Obviously, whether it is strength or whole cards, she has absolute confidence in herself as the king of the world. My energy is boundless, but not Pluton forever. After finishing the inexplicable words, waved his right hand lightly. Immediately afterwards, the sky shone brightly again, just like the 10-6 paths light beams that descended from the gods appeared again, aiming at the banquet host and crashing down. Also almost instantly, the muzzles of the guns were raised high, and the dazzling light also began to flash on the Pluton ship. Especially the main cannon under Momo's feet quickly burst into terrifying energy under Momo's acceleration and multiplication. Boom boom boom. The energy starts to boom. Once again, countless mushroom clouds began to bloom in midair. The strong shock wave even caused the sea surface below 10,000 meters to be shaken and spread in all directions, and waves of shocking waves surged up, causing the coast of Byrnndi archipelago, which is closest to here, to suffer from tsunami disasters. Maud looked to where he had received news of the so-called in Raftel. The rebellious person looks forward to the tree of God, and the world responds to her expectation, endowing her with the divine power of annexation. According to records, the only one who can achieve energy confrontation with Pluton is Uranus. Just like the collision before, so does this guy have Uranus in his body? Byrnndi archipelago. This island, which is the real end of the first half of the Grand Line, has encountered unexpected disaster at this moment. The sudden bombing that resounded through the Red Line brought a strong tsunami to the Byrnndi archipelago at the very beginning. At this moment, with the bombardment of in Pluton above, waves of tsunamis continued to sweep in, rushing straight to the archipelago, forcing many people who were sleeping and unable to resist, into the sea. And the catastrophe didn't stop there. After continuously experiencing the baptism of tsunamis that were too scary in scale, even more terrible things happened. The famous Red Line, which is high above and almost the top of the entire world, began to sweep obliquely because of the high-intensity energy, and countless broken gaps crashed down. For Byrnndi archipelago, this is clearly a disastrous fact. You know, strictly speaking, this eye-catching archipelago is not a real island. It appeared because the sap secreted by the giant mangrove stuck to the sundries floating on the sea, and the Byrnndi archipelago was finally formed after countless years of accumulation. However, the roots of the huge mangrove tree are attached to the Red Line. When the part of the Red Line that was relied on began to have cracks, the Byrnndi archipelago naturally turned into a duckweed that slowly lost its roots. Mangroves fell one by one, and the entire Byrnndi archipelago continued to crumble. Almost none of the lucky ones survived the disaster. This is a battle for the world, and who is clearly the master of the world, and Motor, who wants to seize this world, will not pay attention to such deeds at this time. Even if this is just the destruction of the island caused by the aftermath of their battle. At the top of the Red Line that was almost crumbling, looking at Maud standing on the Pluton battleship, chuckled. You know, although it represents the highest technological level of the group in terms of weapons, this ship the original purpose was just a means of transportation. Relying on the ability of Momo Fruit, you can make Pluton's strength compete with mine, but you need to consume both firepower and energy shield. How long do you think Pluton's energy can last? This is the confidence that even if the world government is in danger, even if she is alone, she will still be calm. The inexhaustible energy of life under immortality can give her to use the power in her body wantonly. One person can destroy the world, and naturally everything is fearless. That's not sure. Maud twitched his lips. Raised his hand again. Laugh. The light blooms. The heavenly punishment light pillar, as bright as a galaxy, whistled again. Compared with firepower, Pluto may really be inferior to Uranus. But is not the only one who possesses infinite abilities and the power to destroy the world. This time, the Pluton battleship still began to accumulate terrifying energy. But Maud's Momo Fruit was not applied to the ship. The autumn sakura at the waist floated in front of the lion fruit under the influence of the lion fruit, and just holding it out for a moment, the terrifying sword momentum under the sword of the king roared in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the vibrating sound of dong dong continued to ring around the sword, and the sword was like white smoke wrapping around the hilt, and the halo of white circles appeared on the sharp edge. Next moment, the huge roar of the giant bell ringing the world suddenly sounded. Click. 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 A clearly visible crack appeared above the atmosphere and spread rapidly. Under the action of endless energy, even all the sky in this area is covered by Momo's hundredfold increase. In the sky, there was a loud and crisp cracking sound, just like transparent glass, cracks shining with tiny rays of light, continuously spreading towards the surroundings in the form of spider webs. The atmosphere and even the space were shattered, and the force of destructive vibration known for violence blasted towards the falling beam of light. The attack can't help sweeping. The sky and the sea shook crazily, and the peak of the red line under his feet began to collapse completely. If it wasn't for Im's protection, the holy land of Mariajoy would collapse along with this land. Boom. Terrible vibrations exploded in the air, and countless beams of light were shattered. No one knows the power of Uranus better than I am. Heaven's punishment is an attack capable of destroying an area of tens of thousands of miles in one blow, so seeing that the attack caused by motor suppressed Uranus's attack forcefully, it has been calm. A rare look of surprise appeared on his face. Without giving the opponent any chance to react, after Uranus's attack was completely destroyed by the most destructive shock, the Pluton under his feet had already fired enough energy to annihilate everything and bombarded Im. And this is the time when it is impossible to use Heaven's punishment to contend. Im's expression changed, and when he lifted his finger, strange spatial fluctuations appeared instantly. Boom. The extremely violent explosion once again set off thick smoke and dust. The attack from Pluton was blocked unexpectedly. This time, it could be clearly seen in the direction of Naim. A huge figure with a length of tens of thousands of meters emerged from the billowing smoke. I didn't expect that you also stole the heart of eternal life. I really want you more and more, Maud. Since this is the case, the so-called weapons competition is meaningless. Im's voice came. The next moment, the huge figure in the smoke and dust seemed to spread two wings covering the sky, and under the beating, there was a strong wind, easily blowing away the aftermath of the explosion. What came into view was a terrifying giant dragon with a head and body shape no less than that of the elephant owner, with curved and sharp long horns on the top of the head, and huge wings on both sides that completely protected the Holy Land Mariajoy and Im, but it was just a huge dragon head with towering horns, as comparable to the famous island whale. This is different from the eastern blue dragon evolved by Kaido, which has the same shape as the western dragon. It's just that compared to the dragon, which is the leader of all races, the steel machinery that covers more than half of its body is even more eye-catching. The material is no stranger to motor, and it is the same top-level technology used by Banquet King Pluto. I am standing proudly on top of the mechanical dragon, with a light wave. The first-generation Goosh in the hands of the bald five elders floated in front of her. Holding the demon knife upside down, I am slowly inserted it into the center of Uranus's head. In an instant, a strange energy injected into it. Uranus seemed to have received Im's order, and after he raised his head to the sky and roared, the pupils of the originally gray half-mechanical face began to glow with dazzling red light, as if his body had been reinfused with life. At the same time, the black robe on Im's body suddenly shattered, revealing the gold armor inside. But then, holy white scales began to appear on the armor, and in the blink of an eye, the entire body to its back turned into mechanical wings that were no different from Uranus. Although I think highly of you, I never imagined that someone could force the Uranus out of my body again after 800 years. However, when the life form has reached the level of you and me, you still have to fight in person to tell the result. I am holding the demon knife in his hand, and flicked it in the air at will, instantly bursting out a dull loud noise, accompanied by a 10,000-meter sword mark spreading across the red line, which is enough to show the strength of Im's body at this time. The next moment, the mechanical giant dragon under its feet seemed to have received Im's order. A red light flashed in the pupils of the mechanical dragon, and it spread its huge wings to pounce on Pluto. Boom. The mechanical dragon claws firmly grasped the ship, but did not cause any damage to the ship. But it seems that the purpose is not the case. The huge dragon head looks down on everyone at the bow, just to make it easier for the people above the head to reach the bow. The distance between Im and Maud is only 100 meters. In Maud's terrifying perception, Im, who was still at the dragon's head just now, suddenly disappeared. The next second seemed to leap into the space, and with a piercing sound, Im directly attacked Maud. Instead, he raised Sakura up and blasted forward ahead of time. Clang. Their respective terrifying strengths and the two supreme large knives offset each other, and the energy directly formed a shockwave visible to the naked eye, instantly sweeping away everything around the two of them. The opponent blocked the blow, as Im expected. After all, since the opponent can reach the point where she can compete with her, it is impossible for her to get the effect with one blow so easily. On the contrary, it allows her to gain the knowledge and information that the opponent has to predict the future. After the move of meeting, Im was forced to back away, but there was a faint satisfied smile on his face. With such power, we can choose a more interesting place this time. While speaking, Im waved the demon knife in his hand towards the back, and an existence that looked like a crack in space appeared behind him. Im leaned back, and disappeared in Maud's line of sight like this. The next moment, the space behind Maud suddenly opened up, and Im appeared behind Maud, and instantly launched a terrifying slash, forcing Maud to fall into a new space. Lord Maud. Hancock immediately shouted nervously, but there was no new space for the two to expand where they had been before. According to Catelyn's records, this is the old man's ability. Guion said, looking at the blonde 5 elders in the front area, and then found that the two powerful rivals of the highest power suddenly seemed to have suffered unpredictable trauma, and they were both weak and half kneeling on the ground. Like an old man about to go into the ground. But it doesn't matter. Robin, one of the main conductors, suddenly said at this moment. This ability is clear to both us and Lord Maud. The first task is to get rid of the forced Uranus. Maybe it can affect I.M. who has turned into a half-dragon. Anubis. With Hancock's cold shout, countless dark souls condensed instantly, carrying a strange breath of death, and the materialized black hole flickered beside Hancock. And I. Different from the eerie darkness, the dazzling incandescent thunder suddenly bloomed on Yamato, who was standing straight. Yamato slowly raised his hand, and red, black, and blue thunderlights entangled with domineering and armed forces emerged from his palm, gathering continuously above the clouds. All of a sudden, the thick black clouds emitted dazzling 3-color divine light, which was so dazzling that it almost filled the sky with such a strange sight. Boom. With the sound of thunder, the clouds directly exploded, revealing a huge thunderball with a diameter twice as large as Uranus's 40,000 to 50,000 meters, in which countless lightning flashes, and the powerful Haki is constantly shaking in it. Seemingly a little dissatisfied with Yamato stealing her demeanor, Hancock snorted, feeling the master's emotions. Anubiston was startled. The soul energy that had been going on in his body was fully blooming at this moment, and it directly turned into nothing less than Yamato's half-point horror black light. The audience watching this horrible scene were stunned and their eyes were glazed over. Although I have seen the terrifying abilities of Uranus and Pluton's world-killing level, I am immune to the same world-killing level. But as expected, as long as there is such a scene beyond people's expectations, the panic and astonishment are uncontrollable. This level, so this is the true background of the Flying Kingdom. It's just that the ace of the royal family under the command of the Flying King also has the domineering power to destroy the country with one blow. BABY5. Robin quickly conveyed 10 confessions through flower fruit followed by Kaido inside the battleship. Buzz. 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 The energy surged rapidly from the Pluton technology. The muzzle faced the Uranus in front of us, and once again the energy that could be called a nuclear explosion began to blast out. Feeling a sense of crisis, Uranus retreated immediately even if I.M. was not there, and spread his huge wings to protect his face. Mechanically, the technical product consistent with Pluto immediately radiated a holy white shield to protect his whole body and even Mariajoy behind him. At this moment of defense, Yamato and Hancock immediately activated their energies, and the terrifying energies of the two riots instantly converged with Pluto's energy, striking the incandescent energy shield forcefully. Dazzling light kept flickering from the shield, but it was not able to withstand Pluton's offensive with ease like before. The three powerful forces made the energy of the shield constantly weakened under the stalemate. Immediately afterwards, another figure jumped up, carrying the knight bestowed by Mord. It came from a black hole capable of devouring everything, and it turned into a shocking bombardment on that barrier. Moment. Shout out. The shield disappeared immediately, and 3 powerful attacks bombarded Uranus, causing it to lose resistance instantly and was thrown out of the red line, falling straight to the sea below. The soul devourer that brings disaster, the thunder that destroys everything, and the darkness that devours everything. Plus the power of Pluton that can destroy an island with a single shot. The combined terrorist attacks instantly smashed through the protective barrier that Uranus had parried. The giant dragon, which was more than half a mechanical organism, let out a painful dragon cry after being swallowed by the explosion. Audiences from all over the world covered their mouths in surprise as they watched the scene presented on the light curtain in front of them. From the mouth of the King of Flying Sky, they naturally knew about this huge monster that covered the sky and the sun, but that Uranus that destroys the world. Uranus. However, the most ancient weapon of this class was actually harmed by Yudingfen's trump card. How can it not make people feel shocked from the bottom of their hearts? In the smoke and dust of the explosion, the huge figure was suppressed by the doctor, and directly under the terrifying suppression of the combination of the 3 major energies, it roared and fell to the bottom of the Red 10 continent. At a speed of thousands of meters per second, it is like sparks hitting the earth. Finally, the huge body landed on the surface of the sea outside the red line, directly blasting violent waves tens of thousands of meters high, quickly swept into a sky-covering tsunami, and rushed towards the periphery of the surrounding sea area. The Pluton battleship quickly caught up with the power energy. Under the violent waves, Uranus was shaking his body in pain. His whole body was scorched black by the energy bombardment, but he didn't fall down because of it. On the contrary, fluorescent blue dots began to appear on his body, making the injuries on his body begin to heal at this moment. It's really tenacious. It actually has the ability to heal itself. Staring at Uranus, who was beginning to recover, Hancock's expression turned slightly ugly. Never mind. Hitting it off the sea will turn the gap between Pluton and Uranus. A bright light flashed in Robin's eyes, and he suddenly shouted to the communication device raised by Flower Fruit again. Maria, Shirahoshi, it's your turn. After Robin finished speaking, the already rough sea surged like boiling water. A large sea king's over 10,000 meters in length, no less than Uranus poked its head out of the water. On top of it were the Spider Queen in a protective suit and Poseidon's star. Immediately afterwards, countless sea kings not lower than this poked their heads out from the sea surface, all of which were so huge that they could swallow an island in one gulp, and they were all the largest sea kings in the depths of the sea. Seemingly feeling threatened, Uranus's wings were about to flap, and beams of light covering the island level began to flicker in the sky. Shirahoshi immediately used his loudest voice and said to the most Poseidon around, "Please everyone, defeat the dragon in front of you." Hearing their revered kings shout, the sea kings raised their heads to the sky and let out a burst of roars, instantly surging under the water. Countless sea kings directly entangled the city towards Uranus. Especially the huge octopus sea kings, with several tentacles nearly 10,000 meters protruding from the water, tightly pulled Uranus's body, and all the next sea kings surged up together, forcibly controlling Uranus. At the same time, the toxin injected by Maria earlier, released from the storage in the bodies of these sea kings, quickly eroded Uranus's body, causing damage to even the energy armor deployed under the wings. "I knew that my potion invention can destroy even ancient weapon." Caesar yelled happily. Since he knew the information about Uranus, he immediately took Pluton as a research with Compass at the request of more development of special restraint. Elements of technology energy. With his brain and the continuous development of Compass, the two of them really succeeded. Seeing that the light beam was also affected by this and began to stagnate and dissipate in the air, everyone realized that this was an opportunity. Sensing the danger, Uranus raised his head to the sky and let out a roar. The mechanical light of his whole body suddenly ignited to the maximum, and actually sent 2 or 3 10,000-meter sea kings flying out. "Everyone." Shirahoshi's worried voice sounded again. Compared with the huge sea kings, Shirahoshi's power is negligible, but her words are the oracle that can make the sea kings pay their lives for it. The sea kings let out roars one after another, each pulling Uranus's limbs violently away. Seeing the struggling Uranus and the sea kings struggling to maintain it, the aces all deployed powerful energy to blast away with the destructive energy wielded by Caesar. The armor of the future technology was affected and forced to fade away, and the terrifying energy hit Uranus's body, and the pieces of steel body on his body were visible to the naked eye, but the weird self-healing energy still continued. "This thing is still recovering. Let me." With Gion shouting, the Yi in his hand suddenly turned into a meteor blade and was thrown into the opened body. Terrifying darkness emanates immediately, the darkness that can swallow all black holes, and even absorbs all the strange life energy that everyone is helpless. In the end, as if cutting off the connection with I am in the strange space and the life energy that was endowed, the mechanical streamer on Uranus began to dim, and was finally pulled by the sea kings and completely collapsed to the surface of the sea. At the same time, when Uranus disconnected from I am, who was originally on a plain space battlefield, suddenly felt a burst of weakness coming from his body, and the offensive that was originally contending with motor couldn't help but stagnate. Crack. Boom. The power of the vibration under the tyrant's entanglement directly caused this plane to shake, and the huge impact directly caused the ground to be torn apart. I am uncommon was covered in blood, and was blasted into the huge crack in an extremely embarrassing situation. Although she has nearly unlimited life energy, she still broke through her defense when she was suddenly attacked by Maud, whose every blow was weaker than Shatter Island, and she was forced to vomit blood. After all, I am is not the only one with almost unlimited energy. Although he looked extremely embarrassed at this time, I am paid more attention to the mutation on his body at this moment. The Dragon Man with the ability of Uranus began to fade, revealing the dark gold armor before. At the same time, after feeling that Uranus was disconnected from her, Im's expression finally showed a look of shock. It appears that my capable retainers have dealt with Uranus. After seeing Im's expression, Maud couldn't help laughing and said, "Compared to the previous appearance of being neither dragon nor human, it really looks much more pleasing to the eye now." Listening to Motor's teasing, I am slowly got up after the powerful ability instantly healed all the injuries on his body. Although he didn't open his mouth, he was more doubtful in his heart. The reason why she specially released Uranus was not only to protect Mariajoy, but also because Uranus was chosen in Pluto F in terms of mobility and destructive power. So as long as she puts the most influential Modella into the alien space, Uranus can be in an almost undefeated situation. Even though Pluto still has Maud's subordinates, but Uranus has the world's best technology, top-level lethality, powerful energy barrier, and the source of self-healing that she bred in it. How could it be destroyed? The opponent subdues. But the ending was like this, and even the time was less than half an hour after she and Maud entered this space, which was simply unexpected, and even unthinkable. But the fact is the fact, after living for so long, won't be able to affect his whole mind for this kind of thing. It's really something I didn't expect. After the words fell, the space of this plane suddenly shattered, followed by a flash of light, and quickly transitioned into a new space. The hot and bright sun shone down from all directions. In the space, a huge mysterious ancient tree appeared, and the root of the plant close to the ground was enough to be tens of meters thick. At some point, was already sitting on a throne made of vines and leaves with a crown formed of tree thorns on his head. This scene. Between flowers. According to his impression, the Yim base located in Pangu City, among the flowers, is a natural fairyland with such a fragrance of birds and flowers. The next moment, under Maud's slightly surprised eyes, changed from the original normal appearance to the half-tree human appearance in just a few seconds. Noticing Maud's subtle expression, smiled lightly and said, "I thought it might be Joey Bowie's heir who would see me like this, but I didn't expect you to be the first. I really didn't expect that your product number is so weird that you like to become either an animal or a plant. In the face of strength, appearance is useless, you should know." Holding the demon knife and disappearing on the canopy of the tree. The next moment he suddenly appeared behind Maud and slashed away with a blow. Within half an hour, he had already understood attack method. Bibo bestowed on Chu Sakura, and Mord turned around and slashed. Clang. During the confrontation of weapons, strong winds swept through. What? Maud frowned slightly, and the shock fruit endowed by the autumn Sakura had disappeared visibly with the naked eye. Feeling suspicious, Maud increased his strength and slammed back away. Landing gorgeously and steadily, almost seemed to be integrated with this natural space, said, "It seems that you have noticed it too. Not only the effect of displaying, but also feeling the weakening of autumn Sakura itself," Maud asked. "Is it the problem of this tree?" Smart. Praised and continued, "Since you have seen the records left by Joey Boy on the ruins, you should know the origin of devil fruit. The sacred tree." Maud looked at the huge tree that created this space, but hasn't it been destroyed? The person who destroyed it was in front of him. After all, she obtained the power to overthrow the huge kingdom. Naturally, just in case, she also destroyed the sacred tree that could realize the ability of people's feelings. Its meaning has indeed been destroyed, but since everyone can create dragons, how difficult is it to create a fruit of new abilities? Stretched out his hand, and immediately the huge branches of the tree consciously swayed towards it. As if feeling the touch, or feeling that the winning ticket is in his hands, revealed a storyteller's appearance at this moment and said, "Want to hear it?" Joey Bowie was surprised. "The real story of that era." "I don't have any interest," Maud said lightly. "Actually, if it wasn't for the information about you and Uranus, I wouldn't even have much interest in the so-called Raftel, unless it was transformed into one after I took control of the world. Historical events." "How dare you say that?" Glared at Maud, as if resentful that she had interrupted her rare interest, the first time she had taken the initiative to tell others about her exploits. "Do you know, although this new sacred tree has lost the ability to form devil fruit, it still retains the influence of the fruit." In the end, it seemed that she still wanted to let others know the fruit she made, and said, "It can suppress the ability of all ability users except me, and can increase my own ability. Under such circumstances, do you still have the confidence to win?" "Certainly." Maud smiled slightly, and terrifying energy erupted from him instantly, causing the surrounding ground to crack apart. Boom. With a light kick on Maud's feet, the ground instantly burst into a sound like an earthquake. The gravel on the ground was kicked up by this foot, and then surrounded Maud's body under the effect of fluttering. Im's expression changed. "Call out." All the crushed stones turned into boulders hundreds of meters in an instant, roaring towards with a clever sound of breaking through the air. Holding the demon knife in his hand, he condensed the energy and slashed directly. The huge meteorite coming from the violent wind and torrential rain, shattered into pieces. The moment the meteorite was unfolded, Mord, who had already come behind holding the autumn Sakura, suddenly cut out. In an instant, Fang Yuan's life force was emptied for 1,000 meters. With knowledge, caught the attack of Maud raising his hand. But just as he was about to make a defensive move, the feeling instantly spread throughout his body. The last second was still in the sense of knowledge, but the next second the attack was already bombarded on the body. How can it be? Knowing that she had been attacked, IM immediately mobilized the more internal armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki to build defenses in less than a second. However, Maud's blow still caused her to be almost cut off in the middle. The long-lost pain and the almost broken waist made IM's pupils dilate. This guy in front of me can kill himself. Why? IM looked at Maud, feeling the horrible injury being healed on his body, and his doubts gathered into this question. Now it is within the scope of authority of the sacred tree, and it is obvious that shock fruit is difficult to use under this influence, but how did Piao Piao and Momo, which Maud just used, do it? You must know that the authority she created has never been an exception like Maud's since ancient times. Maybe it's because my two abilities are quite special. Answering IM's question, Maud clenched his fists, seeming to put all his strength into it. When IM said earlier that his abilities would be restricted by the divine tree, he felt that Momo and Piao Piao in his body were not within that influence. Thinking about it, it is true that whether it is plundering the fruit of dual abilities or the template, it is an existence far beyond the common sense of this world, and it can be understood without being affected by the sacred tree. But if it weren't for this incident, he would have even forgotten the magical cheat that made him rise to the May 7th special. The injuries on IM's body recovered rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the injuries that were almost cut in half recovered as before, but the dark gold armor was completely damaged, revealing the waist and abdomen as white as snow, and strangely even a little bit of bloodline none. Unable to understand what Maud's so-called specialness is, IM stood up again from his weak appearance, and then seemed to have countless bright energies, and flew to him across space. At the same time, the 8-pointed bearded and long-bearded 5 elders, who were fighting far away and Impel down, both suddenly felt weak. The two who had previously held the advantage against Dorag and the Eternal Hell villains suddenly fell to the ground powerlessly. Feeling that the favor bestowed by the Lord was rapidly draining away, the pupils of both of them couldn't help but widen. This situation. How is it possible? Was it Maud who pushed Master IM into a corner? Shin Chunin couldn't help shouting, but the two of them could only collapse powerlessly on the ground, feeling the rapid loss of all vitality in their bodies. Not only the 5 elders, but also the most mysterious god's shield army have been weakened. Although I am puzzled by this situation, neither the revolutionary army, the straw hats, nor the heinous criminals who want to escape will not miss this opportunity. Go back to the space IM created. This is the first time I've felt a crisis of this magnitude since I've been planning for hundreds of years. Feeling the constant rise of various constitutions, skills, and Haki in his body, IM looked at Maud with a serious expression that he had never had before. I will never let you continue to live in this world, but... Don't say it, you seem to have a winning ticket. Maud raised his hand to interrupt IM's words, and said with a calm smile on his face, from the beginning until now, it is you who have been forced by me to play all the cards. But seeing that you are now the last whole card, of course I can't continue to hide it. The moment Maud's voice fell, the temperament and constitution on his body suddenly released an explosive catharsis, and a large amount of steam began to escape from his body uncontrollably. The airwaves turned into strong winds, even causing huge cracks to spread continuously on the ground, and the surrounding natural life quickly withered under the heat. Feel the momentum as if it is endlessly rising and multiplying, it even surpasses the current self. IM narrowed his expression, and snapped his fingers directly at Maud. This is the finger pistol, which has been trained to ultimate with the god's shield. Under IM's casting, it turned into a red light wheel, blasting towards Maud in the wind, and all the places it passed were turned into powder by the energy of ultimate. Chu Sakura entangled with the terrifying entanglement multiplied by the awakening of the Momo fruit at the moment, and Mord slashed and landed on the light wheel, and the power of the sword caused the red light wheel at a kilometer level to explode into a rain of light. In the next second, Motor, who was at least 100 meters away, appeared at a distance of only 3 meters away from IM. At such a close distance, it can be said that the existence of IM and Mord at this level is fleeting. Brush. Maud's figure is like a black halo, even faster than Paluzolino's light speed, approaching IM at a speed comparable to teleportation. IM's expression changed. She obviously took back all the sources of energy that she had dispersed, and the horror accumulation accumulated over hundreds of years had given her a huge and unpredictable increase in all kinds of consciousness. But at this moment, it is still the same as before. Maud's speed is completely unpredictable, making it too late for her weird spatial ability to be displayed, and even the knowledge of predicting the future appears in a trance. Maud, who appeared in front of IM, held the Autumn Sakura and slashed with an increase of more than 100 times, and hit IM's chest hard. Boom. The armor made by ultimate technology was shattered. IM's chest and abdomen burst open, and countless flesh and blood splashed out. The strong slash wave directly passed through its body, splitting a huge impact of tens of thousands of meters behind it, almost a blow that spread to the end of the entire space. Faced with such a slash, IM let out a scream and vomited out a large amount of donated blood, and the whole person bowed down directly. Looking up, it was already a horizontal slash by Maud with a sharp wind. Along with the huge god-tier tree behind him, it was directly broken by this slash, and Im's head also flew out. But soon, the flesh and blood from Im's chest flew out and disappeared quickly, and the flying head reappeared on Im's body. Without giving the reborn Im any chance to breathe, Maud clenched his fist and punched Im in the face. Yee poof. The beautiful and gorgeous face with a terrified expression was instantly smashed to the ground by Maud's fist, making a sound of some kind of soft object being crushed. It was just one blow, and Maud, who didn't practice physical skills very much, directly smashed the ground and caused a terrifying explosion. The airwaves raised swept the audience with countless dust and sand. In the rising smog, Maud was not touched at all under the force of Piao Piao. On the contrary, the high and mighty king of the world, at the moment, was covered in smoke and dust, showing a distressed appearance. Whether it is cutting off the body or flying the head, it can be restored to its original state, giving people endless and terrifying vitality. It feels more like a durable sandbag. Looking at Im at his feet, Maud showed a condescending expression. However, the expression of fear before is so pleasing to match with you. Maud. You bastard. Im stared at Maud with a pair of extremely resentful eyes. Although the body was still recovering under the vitality, the pain brought about by the whole body made her feel true, and even made her reveal the embarrassing emotion. What a humiliation this is, as the ruler of the world, the king of the world. The self who has ruled the world for 800 years in darkness, is beaten into such an ugly state by someone who has no power to fight back. I want you to die. From the so-called collectibles to the enemy to the person who must be killed, Im's thoughts change with the mood at the moment. The terrifying conquerors go straight into the sky, and the sky and the ground tremble wildly in fear. Haven't you felt the gap between you and me? Maud glanced at Conquerors, who was venting like a nuclear explosion, and his momentum froze. Boom. Conquerors also soared into the sky, and even surpassed the catharsis of the earthquake, directly crushing Im Conquerors. This piece of space created by Im couldn't bear the domineering force, and it was desperately shaken. Immediately afterwards, it seemed that the mirror surface was under extreme pressure and made a broken sound. The strange space exploded directly under Maud Conqueror's momentum. Never-ending, ever-multiplying Conquerors soar into the sky. The sky above the red line is covered with a red aura. As the center of the world, after Maud released Haki without any scruples, the whole world changed drastically. Hurricanes, thunderstorms, volcanoes, earthquakes, and countless violent elements occur in every corner within hundreds of miles of the red line. And in Mariajoy, the holy place at the center of the disaster, the space here is like shattered glass, and the pieces are shattered. Im, who was bathed under the Maud Conquerors, showed a look of panic for the second time, but this look was only fleeting, and soon transformed into absolute ruthlessness. Do you realize now? The gap between me and you. Staring at Im's resentful eyes, Maud said lightly. There was no reply, and Im no longer had the calmness she had at the beginning. With Maud's aura unfolding at this moment, she only felt that the omen of death became more and more obvious. Thinking of this, a flash of determination flashed in Im's eyes, the terrifying Conqueror's Haki burst out from a muddy body, and the accumulation of sources buried for hundreds of years exploded in his body one by one, turning into more uncontrollable energy constantly filled Im's body. Whether those Haki or skills, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just the accumulation of hundreds of years of planning. As long as the immediate threat is removed, everything can start all over again. Roar. Im, as if possessed by a demon, suddenly turned to the sky and roared, and at the same time her body began to swell. Maud. Relying on the state at this moment, her figure instantly swelled several times, her right hand flickered, exuding bright energy particles, blasting and killing Maud with all her strength. The particles formed by Yim's collection of an unknown amount of energy condensed into a huge light sphere with a diameter of tens of thousands of meters in an instant. Nothingness. It's really crazy. Detonate those energy sources at this time, so as to get the so-called explosive growth. Maud looked at Yin Mu and said, it's just a pity, compared to your growth of 1,000 injuries and 800 losses, I am the most direct multiplication. Holding Chu Sakura, he slashed directly. The energy particles that turned into two halves immediately exploded behind Maud, setting off an overwhelming gust of wind. Die. Im roared, blasting towards Maud in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Yin Mu's eyes have been shrouded in blood, and her only goal at this moment is to kill Maud in front of her. Pung. The attacks of the two collided again, and the figures were constantly entangled in the air, which was countless times more intense than the previous duel, but the situation was not as evenly matched as before. Although your energy has indeed increased far beyond the previous surge, this crazy fighting method is several times less threatening than the initial one. Effortlessly dodging Im's finger pistol full of murderous intent, ignoring the 10,000-meter deep pit that Redline was blown out of behind, Maud Changdao cut out, so fast that the phantom's sharp blade pierced Im's heart, and then the energy with a sudden vent. Im in front of him exploded into a pile of flesh and blood in an instant. Call. Immediately after blowing, Im, who had already been scattered with minced meat, recovered as before. At this moment, on Im's body, the originally gorgeous armor and robes had already been shattered in the battle, and even a large piece of snow-white skin was directly exposed to the air. But at this moment, the terrifying aura of constant arrogance just like Maud's, and the increasingly intense tyrannical aura, will not make people fascinated by her appearance at the moment, but will be fascinated by her image like a beast in human skin. Palpitations. Maud. Accompanied by the roar, Im's body turned into an afterimage, and under the heavy bombardment, the ground where Maud avoided was blasted into a sky full of gravel by waves of energy. A whistling storm came, and Motor swung his fist, like the power of a meteorite falling from the sky, directly smashing the surrounding space and shaking it. Gritting his teeth, Im didn't dodge or dodge at all, only recklessly fought back. The same punch is powerful enough to shake mountains and rivers. Boom. The thunder rang, and even the entire red line of millions of miles trembled. PFF'd. Im's fist shattered directly, and then Maud's body was full of blood, and he punched Im's abdominal cavity with speed and power beyond his predictive ability. Flesh and blood exploded, and Im, who was visible to the naked eye, recovered as before. But before Im could fight back, Maud had already grabbed her arm, pulled her back inertially, leaned forward in front of the unstoppable force, and bumped against Im with a knee without hesitation. Body, blast it out. Countless times it has recovered to its original state, and it has been easily blown away countless times. Obviously the energy in the body is still growing, but why can't it still compete with Maud? Whether it's speed, power, strength, everything, it's as if there is a gap between the sky and the earth. Why? Im murmured, then yelled at Maud. Why? Knowing the other party's inner voice at the moment, Maud said lightly, because there is the biggest difference between you and me, not to mention that you have given up your greatest advantage. If there is no accident about your ability, it must be swallowing. You can swallow the power of foreign objects and turn it into your own, and you can also turn your own energy into a scattered source and give it to outsiders. Subsequent recovery of the source stream allows itself to achieve annexation and developed abilities, skills in all elements. I have to say that you who have infinite vitality can indeed use this ability to the limit. Im didn't make a sound, but answered in a silent manner. It's just a pity that the source of your scattered abilities, even after hundreds of years of planning and development, can't surpass me. Maud looked at Im, and his energy unexpectedly rose again. And I am a Momo fruit-capable person, and the scope of my awakening is not just as simple as what I can touch. Multiplication is the concept of Momo fruit, which can increase the speed, volume, size, etc. of the objects it touches, up to 100 times. And to achieve awakening, then there is a completely different concept from this rule. As long as it is within Maud's mind, everything can be multiplied as Maud thinks. No matter all objects in reality, or cells in the body, constitution, sword power, hockey, etc., are all in the concept of multiplication. Even the degree of doubling is far more than before. If the usual maximum is 100 times, then after Maud awakens, he can continue to give 100 times and then give another 100 times, reaching a continuous energy surge that Im can't surpass in any case. It's just that the consumption of this kind of ability is almost more exaggerated than Karina's ability to cover the whole world. Even using life potion and pure gold can't last for half a day, so it's naturally not in the common cards that Maud considers. But after obtaining the immortal constitution like Im, this ability with extremely strong shackles was naturally released. Im's pupils constricted, and even if Maud didn't express the ability after awakening, she could guess this situation. But the more so, the more unwilling she was. If the divine tree can play the expected role, she will definitely win. Involuntarily, a big mouthful of blood spewed out from Im's mouth. Following the spurt of this mouthful of blood, Im suddenly became extremely sluggish. It seems that you also know the result. Looking at Im, who looked sluggish and completely lost the power to fight back, Maud said indifferently, "It's just a burst of pure energy, losing all the skills that come from planning, and a beast that has no energy for a lifetime will naturally not be my opponent. It's over, M." After Maud announced, he mobilized all his power and poured it into Sakura. The shock wave enough to wipe out the divine strike, the momentum and aura of pure kendo, the black and red of ultimate hockey, the energy of Piao Piao and Momo converged and multiplied. At this moment, Sauda mobilized all the energy systems he could master. All kinds of energies are intertwined on Sakura, and finally mixed into a hazy 7-colored halo. Feel the surrounding energy and breath being evacuated, and the result that cannot be escaped or avoided. It's over. I am feeling the surrounding energy and breath being emptied, and the result that cannot escape or avoid, said with a hoarse voice. Jinda. What kind of origin do you want to create? Of course it is a world where all things are centered on me and have me as their will. Seeing Maud's vigorous answer, I am only felt extremely unhappy. Ridiculous concept. The world will never be able to surround a single force, whether it is the once huge kingdom or the world government. As long as the desire called greed and ambition is still there is no guarantee that your so-called era will not repeat the same mistakes I am now. I'm not going to be like a turtle after I get the world like you. Since I have eternal life, how difficult is it to create an eternal kingdom text? Whether it is the rule of fear or the rule of force, as long as the world rule is maintained, it is a good means. After Maud finished speaking, Chu Sakura fell. Between whistling, it continuously multiplies and changes in milliseconds. In an instant, the sky was instantly enveloped by this huge energy, like a second sun hanging high in the sky. The attack was completely locked on IM, who had given up resisting, a blow that couldn't escape even the space, and with a dazzling light that seemed to swallow everything, he slammed down swiftly. Bang rumble. Following a brief silence, terrifying roars erupted. The light even covered half the world. I am, the Holy Land Mariajoy. Everything is turned into nothingness under the energy shock. Seeing that the red line, which was several million meters below, was obliterated by almost half of its height, Maud stared at the 4 Cs, somewhat unable to hide his inner emotions at the moment. Finally. Success. A world ruled by me. Below the red line, to above where the fighting has subsided. Whether it is the retainers of the Flying Kingdom, or the people of Karina's spiritual world, they are all waiting anxiously. The thing that can be confirmed is that whoever emerges is the side that wins the war. Because of the influence of abilities, even Karina's spiritual world can hardly observe that earth-shattering battle. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, the changes that affected the world and nearly half of the red line were annihilated. No matter which one they are, Maud and IM will become absolute existences that the public will not dare to resist. It was originally just a war between Marines and pirates caused by Raftel. No one expected the situation to gradually evolve into a battle for world supremacy, and even the level of war has changed from island level to world destruction level. It's amazing. Someone's figure appeared. Suddenly, someone exclaimed. Immediately, everyone in the spiritual world focused their attention. Black dots appeared in the sky, and they were slowly falling. And yet to see the figure, just feeling the familiar and powerful aura, everyone in the Faikong Kingdom erupted in huge cheers. Win. It's Lord Maud. Master Maud really defeated IM. It is our victory. At the same time, the figure of Motor appearing on the screen in the sky instantly touched the hearts of countless people present. It's the King of Flying. He won the world government. The Flying Kingdom is going to replace the world government. The celestial dragons are over. The world government has been overthrown. OMG. What will happen to the world? Will confederations still exist? It's over. Everything is over. It's going to be ruled by people from an illegal country. I can already foresee my future life. Not necessarily. Don't those newspapers all record the rich country under the management of that king? Countless different voices resounded in the sky above the spiritual world, and a series of explosive news brought by the final victory made people's minds buzzing. The world has been running on the track of government rule for 800 years, and today finally ushered in a new turning point. Without the restraint of the world government, no one knows whether the sea will fall into more chaos in the future. But today is a moment worthy of being remembered by the whole world. The Flying King successfully replaced the government and became the well-deserved king of the world. Impel down. Because of problems with the 2-5 elders and the shield of the demigod, the Revolutionary Army and the Straw Hat Grand Fleet finally won the important victory. Finally liberated. Lousy came out of Impel down. Marine, government, Lousy wants revenge. The villains from the 6th floor of the Eternal Hell began to shout. Doflamingo, who escaped with Straw Hat and others, looked at the 5 elders who were restrained at this moment, and the revenge in his heart soared, and he smiled happily. Shi. Unexpectedly, you group of people who are born high old things will end up like this one day. Smiling, Doflamingo looked at Drago again. Sure enough, the concept of the Revolutionary Army matches me very well. Seeing that we have also dealt with arms, I can contribute together when we attack the celestial dragons. After all, that the gang has always taken good care of me. No need. I think the war in the Holy Land Mariajoy may be over. Drago said, and glanced at the high-level government officials who were trapped and locked up. He didn't think that the sudden collective weakness was a coincidence. What do you mean? Doflamingo just asked, but then he thought of something in shock and blurted out. Is it the kingdom of flying sky? Can't help blurting out. The loud voice immediately attracted the attention of many people. This name, in today's era, can be an absolute leader in the existence of 700 sheep. Nodding, Drago was about to say something, when 10 soldiers of the Revolutionary Army hurried over with a phone bug. Boss, the world government has been defeated by the Flying Kingdom. What? Countless people gasped, shocked by the news, and Doflamingo couldn't hide his astonishment. As a former celestial dragons, he knew the trump cards that those existences possessed. Is this true? Involving the concept of revolution, Duo Lage and the cadres of the Revolutionary Army couldn't help asking. This is the report from over there. It is confirmed that there is a live broadcast that we can witness with our own eyes. Dorag took the phone bug that was specially connected to the Flying Kingdom, and dialed directly. There was no sound of waiting for contact, and the phone bug was connected at the moment of dialing. It's just that the phone bug didn't change into anyone's appearance, but widened its eyes, and a light curtain was projected directly from it, forming a live broadcast screen above the periphery of Impel down. Maud's figure appeared in the sky. It looks exceptionally clear under projection. At the same time, from now on, the Celestial Dragon system and world government will be a thing of the past. At this moment, we will all be witnesses of a new history. Karina cheered. And as Maud slowly settled on the red line, the people of the spiritual world immediately held their breaths and concentrated. The billions of people who were originally noisy seemed to become silent at this moment. Seemingly knowing that this moment is equivalent to a live broadcast to the world, Motor said, "My name is Motor, and I will be the master of the future of the world, ruling over everything." Just the first sentence is the proper words of the king, which directly aroused the discomfort and panic in many people's hearts. After all, even if the so-called throne of the sky by the world government is false, there has never been such a declaration of absolute hegemony that everything is controlled by him without even pretending to be installed. But before the panic under this declaration spread, the greater panic was expressed by Motor's actions. From now on, the era of great pirates is over, and the countries of the world are no longer divided into north, south, east, and west. As the voice fell, Maud floated up under the follow-up of the projection screen. Soon the picture freezes in front of red line. Countless people looked up at the still towering red line from the angle of the phone bug. In the end, countless eyes from all over the world converged on the figure of Maud in front of the red line rock wall. Stretching out his palm, Maud touched the red line in front of him. Not the slightest word. Following Maud's movements, the towering red line roared. Half of the red land is slowly rising from the sea under the dull eyes of everyone. The red line, which divides the Grand Line into two, is no longer a natural moat at this moment, and the big Luffy with millions of miles rises up, although it is not the whole of the red line. But this did completely unify the four seas and successfully connected all the sea regions together. And saw this scene. Be it the people, the Revolutionary Army, or the Impel down prisoners. They looked at the red line slowly separating, and the boundless sea presented before them without the cover of the red continent, and they were all so shocked that they couldn't speak a word. This is the strongest existence that will dominate the world. Even Bullet, who was originally aroused with a strong fighting spirit, unexpectedly revealed an uncontestable feeling in his heart. This godlike existence completely makes people unable to raise any thoughts of resistance from the bottom of their hearts, and being dominated by it seems to have become a matter of course. The four seas are one. From now on, the time will no longer be recorded in the Sea Circle calendar. I, Mord, will create an immortal history and build a nation forever. This huge war that swept across the entire world is bound to be engraved in the memory of countless people together with that majestic and powerful figure until death comes. Maud. King of the world. A new era begins with this name. A new era comes, Eternal Kingdom. In the early morning of the next day, the newspapers of the World Economic News Agency spread throughout the world, and the photos on the front page were the comparison pictures of the destruction of the Holy Land Mariajoy and the coming of the Flying Kingdom. It introduces the cause process of the war deeds in detail, as well as the Oshang that appeared under various wars. Although Karina has witnessed the general situation of the battle in her spiritual world, but with the more detailed records brought by the newspaper, the already turbulent world has reached a new height. Directly wipe out millions of red line attacks. 3 ancient weapons with the power to destroy the world. The terrifying power displayed by the ace of Yudingfan and flying retainers. Everything is to let people know how exaggerated the strength of the new ruler who has been renamed the Eternal Kingdom. Of course, there are many other news, but without exception, they are all related to the Eternal Kingdom. Marine was destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of Marine and government agents were wiped out by IM. The Revolutionary Army and the Straw Hat Fleet break Impel down. many heinous prisoners reappear in the world. The celestial dragon system and the destruction of the notorious descendants of the creator. The power of Poseidon, the Fishmen Island moves up, the country closest to the Eternal Kingdom. The Eternal Kingdom established the New World regime, and the kings of 170 joined countries surrendered to show their loyalty. 3 months later, on the top of the Red Line, after the Flying Kingdom became the new ruler of the world, the original holy place Mariajoy here turned into the Eternal Kingdom and became the new holy place after Mod ruled the world. It was a majestic huge castle, towering in the vast clouds, full of mystery and solemnity, and one could not help feeling awe at just a glance. In front of the majestic castle is an extremely spacious eternal square. In the garden full of carved railings, tall and lifelike stone statues stand there one after another. The leader is a young emperor who is magnificent and extraordinary, overlooking the entire square. That figure is undoubtedly the most famous king of the world at this time, Mod, and the stone statues supporting the young emperor around him are the retainers of the king who have become the new creator. Without exception, they are all noble existences under the command of gods, respected and worshipped by countless people all over the world. After becoming the master of the world, the Flying Kingdom quickly reorganized the whole world. Because it had already taken away all the kings of the joining countries before it was destroyed, after successfully obtaining the surrender of all the joining countries, the Flying Kingdom will soon effect its own rule to the world. The people living at the bottom are the easiest to be satisfied. As long as they can live humbly and have not reached the limit of endurance, it is impossible for them to raise their heads to rebel. Knowing this, infiltrating and updating the knowledge of Mod's policy, the civil servants headed by Ashi and Robin, who are constantly absorbing and growing, began to constantly update the new policy of the Eternal Kingdom. With the precedent of world government and Flying Kingdom, coupled with the concept of taking the essence and discarding the dross, and through continuous discussion and elimination, various new policies will soon be implemented as the beginning of the eternal first year. In just 3 months, even if the sea trains and huge bridges are not yet completed, under the air and submarine facilities promoted by the Eternal Kingdom, centering on the central Holy Land, ideas, knowledge, economy, culture, etc. will be involved to the greatest extent. The elements of many aspects are universal. At the same time, we specially fight against the villains of Impel down in the Pirates against Grand Line. The world is not in dire straits as most people think. It would be better to say that the unmatched combat power of the Eternal Kingdom constitutes the peace of the sea under fear, plus the eradication of slavery, and the comprehensive development and progress of education, technology, and medical care after connecting the 4 seas. The entire sea seems to have gotten rid of the unrivaled battle 3 months ago, and gradually has a stable and harmonious atmosphere that was even far beyond that during the world government period. In addition, the Eternal First Year also issued a talent recruitment test to the whole world, which is different from the competitions in the Flying Kingdom period, and it is a truly world-class event. The examination will be divided into 2 directions, Imperial Examination and Martial Examination, and will be held every 3 years. The Imperial Examination system, headed by culture, covers all knowledge-related talents related to medicine, science, music, cooking, etc., through continuous assessments held by townships, towns, and cities in each country. The 10 finalists or finally determined candidates come to the Holy Land of the Eternal Kingdom for assessment. Those who pass the customs can obtain the resources and training of the Eternal Kingdom, and even the top 3 in various fields can also become the central talents under Motor's command and enjoy many preferential policies. The Martial Examination System, headed by Force, is similar to the Imperial Examination System in general, but it does not have so many branches in various fields. It is only a concept, that is, strength. Martial arts passers can also obtain the resources of the Eternal Kingdom for training, and the top 100 can enter the Eternal Kingdom's army that bans Marine. The top 10 will be transferred to the team of the former Air Force and the current Central Guard according to the priority of the ranking. We must know that in addition to the so-called inequality in the martial arts examination, the Imperial Examination is a comparison and promotion of various knowledge. It is another way to gain power and status in this sea where strength is respected. Everyone can participate. At the same time, starting from the Township Examination, all countries will be supervised by the Shadow Guards sent by the Eternal Kingdom, ensuring fairness to the greatest extent. So this policy was promulgated, and soon received a strong response from the people of the world. The Central Holy Land has also become a sacred place in the hearts of people all over the world, replacing the absolute monarchy that governs the world together, and it is also quickly and subtly accepted by all people. At this moment, Mod, who has become the master of the world, is now holding Hancock's waist with one arm, enjoying the massage of Baby 5 behind him in the pool, and watching the girls playing with the beautiful mermaid. Located in the center, with Shirahoshi praying, the Fishmen Island has become the closest country to the Holy Land after moving up. Naturally, it was originally a facility based on the Mermaid Bay. This time, Maud really moved the biggest features of the Fishmen Island into the holy place where he lives, and built his own enjoyment paradise. With the victory ending of becoming the ultimate king, naturally Maud's desire is even more unscrupulous. He bowed his head until he finished drinking the fine nectar, and then broke free from Hancock's unique fiery entanglement. Looking at the other's beautiful eyes that were obviously about to turn into water, Maud smiled and said, "Now is not the time." Hearing this, Hancock stabilized his heart with a little disappointment, and then looked at Nami and others in the pool, as well as nearly 100 carefully selected beautiful mermaids, and the disappointment faded away. She has counted her days recently, and she wants to absolutely occupy Lord Maud these few days. It is best to let her bear it alone so as to realize her wish to the greatest extent. Especially after learning that Guion and Ah Shi had reaped fruit, and even Robin had vague symptoms, the anxiety in her heart made it difficult for her to settle down for several days. Grandma Niu, who offered some suggestions several times but failed to achieve Hancock's goal, became the target of Hancock's anger during that period. This time, she lowered her haughty face to ask Ah Shi and Maria for advice, saying that everything must be fulfilled. It so happened that as soon as the thought came to Ah Shi's teaching, the figure of the other party walked in from outside the Mermaid Bay. Under the beautiful face, there is still an alluring posture that will not change with time. Of course, besides her beauty, what makes Ah Shi really attractive is her gentle and considerate character. Especially at this time, she has an extra maternal aura, adding a layer of bonus that Maud loves. Hancock stared straight at the obviously changed belly of the other party, and gritted his teeth somewhat jealously. Feeling the emotions of Hancock in his arms, Maud smiled and asked, "Didn't I say that you don't need my approval for policy matters, and there will be problems with you and Robin?" Ah Shi curled his lips, showing a speechless little emotional expression, and then sat in Maud's other open arm and said, "I didn't come here for this, but because I know your bad taste. Think it's one thing that would interest you." "What is it?" Maud asked, and the left hand that blocked Ah Shi began to feel dishonest. Ah Shi did not feel any discomfort, and even put his arms around Maud, making the latter lament that the lady who used to blush would not come back. Vegapunk's avatar, York, who represents desire, reported to us that Vegapunk, the Straw Hats, and some of the Revolutionary Army have unruly ideas. Huh? Maud's expression changed slightly, and finally turned into a chuckle. It was a bit of a surprise to him. As a stubborn guy like a Straw Hat, with all the previous experiences and Garp's red hair being destroyed, he will naturally not calm down, and Maud has already expected it. But I didn't expect that 4+ Punk and the Revolutionary Army would not dare to get involved. You must know that the manifesto was specially shown to the Revolutionary Army at that time. In addition to announcing the collapse of the government, there was also a layer of threat of force. As for Vegapunk, when the Imperial examination system informed the world, the most intelligent scientist of mankind was also ranked high by the Eternal Kingdom and others. Maud also took the initiative to go to Danjian Island, but Vegapunk was not there at the time, and the incident gradually unfolded, so it didn't matter. After reading this, Maud said to a beautiful figure with blonde hair in the bay, "Stussy." Hearing this, Stussy, who was lying leisurely on the sofa chair and reading a book, immediately came to Maud with buried steps, and even when the seats on both sides were full, he boldly and directly sat on Maud's lap, with his body leaning forward. Yin Yang smiled and said, "What's the matter, my king? Do you still have contact with Vegapunk?" Maud said. Originally a government spy, it was not until Stussy was completely dyed in his color that Motor knew that the other party had a relationship behind Vegapunk. "I have a new king, so naturally I have less contact with that old man, but because his knowledge and ability are indeed worthy of your attention, I usually let the Shadow Guard pay attention to the information there, so when I rest with you time, what happened?" In the discourse, Maud was also brought in, obviously creating an alibi for himself. Maud looked at the other party with a funny look. Among the retainers, only Stussy and Maria could make full use of the cleverness that he didn't hate. Ah Shi took over the conversation on Maud's behalf. A clone of Vegapunk, York, who represents desire, reported to the Shadow Guard that the main body connected with Straw Hats and part of the Revolutionary Army in an attempt to have unruly ideas. York, it seems that the establishment of the Eternal Kingdom has made the desire unbearable. Stussy suddenly realized, and then smiled lightly. She is the only avatar that I secretly told the existence of the Shadow Guard. As the avatar of desire, she has always hoped that there is only one Vegapunk in the world. Because of this, she is a very good chess piece for Vegapunk. Woolen cloth. With that, she got up from Maud, turned around and took the bag from her previous beach chair, and took out a phone bug with a gold ball head and sunglasses from it. Blue, blue, blue. Click. After the phone bug was connected, a baby-like sweet voice sounded immediately. "Is it Stussy?" Listening to York's voice, Stussy said softly, "It's me, York. Is the news you reported true?" "Yes." York answered decisively, and at the same time said in order to achieve his own goal, "The Revolutionary Army and the Straw Hats are now in Egg Point Island, and from the knowledge of the past ontology, they have learned information that can cause trouble to the Eternal Kingdom." As for what kind of information it is, York didn't say it directly. Obviously it meant that there was a need for it. Stussy, who understands the avatar of desire, also continued, "Then what does York want in return for information?" "I want to be like Stussy, a minister of the new god who can live in the holy land of the Eternal Kingdom." After talking about his desire, York then added, "Of course, as one of the clones of the main body, I can eventually replace the main body, so that dedicate all his knowledge to the Eternal Kingdom." I agreed. Just then, Maud spoke. "It's really a terrible desire, York." Stussy said, "Did you hear that?" Just now that adult himself agreed. Originally hearing the difference in the voice, York, who didn't reply immediately, became emotional immediately, and then said happily, "Is that the Lord? That's really great. York, I want to be one of the world's most distinguished members." After the excitement, York immediately revealed the key information. The Straw Hat Gang learned from the main body that the so-called rubber fruit is not the Paramecia fruit, but the sun god Nika fruit, also known as Animal Series Phantom Beast. And as long as it awakens to the form of the sun god Nika, that Straw Hat will have an ability called the Drum of Liberation, which can directly affect Uranus and Pluton. The group of people in the city is now planning to let the Straw Hat practice awakening on Egg Point Island. Uranus and Pluton. Motor smiled. Although they are all ancient weapons that can destroy the world, the final battle has nothing to do with these weapons. It's just that the battle between him and I was not broadcast live, so many people don't know about it. Just know. The so-called Child of Destiny, and the undead of Wano-kuni should also be resolved. In this case, let's send troops there. Let the people of the world take a good look at the end of rebelling against the Eternal Kingdom. Hey. I seem to have a new idea in my mind. Haha, since this is the case, do we want to increase the debugging of the war weapon? I just want to see the degree of damage between it and the 4 emperors. It's too bad. I haven't thought of that level yet. Pythagoras, please continue to adjust the weapon. I have to write down the new idea quickly. York, you can eat for me. Located on the R&D floor of Danjian Island, the 5 clones of Vegapunk at this time began to perform their duties because they witnessed the battle between the Straw Hat and the war weapon. This is a special training trial that has been carried out almost every day recently. In the center of the virtual junction, the Straw Hats will fight against the developed machinery to stimulate the awakening of the Straw Hat fruits. Only Sakamuni, who represents integrity, said nothing about it, and then silently walked in front of the main body Vegapunk and said, "I always feel that this is not a good thing." Vegapunk. Are you worried about supporting the country? Of course, the guy over there is the most threatening pirate in the world right now, plus he has a group of dangerous people who want to overthrow the new country around him. It is absolutely impossible to ignore for Danjian Island hidden hazard. After the Eternal Kingdom issued an order to eliminate pirates, with the Grand Line as the leader, all ships sailing under the pirate flag were sanctioned by the now powerful Eternal Kingdom. In addition, the faction of the 4 emperors Kaido was suppressed, and Kaido himself was sent to the Eternal Kingdom by force. Now the most powerful pirate is Seagao's only Straw Hat. Because of the policy of the Eternal Kingdom, the pirates who don't want to be arrested or give up their current life basically pour into the Straw Hat fleet, which directly created the Straw Hat fleet as almost the current. Only all the pirate camps left. Because of this reason, Ben has undoubtedly become a major crusade point in the Eternal Kingdom, coupled with the warriors who want to avenge the king of the world. And some of the revolutionary army who greedily want to get more things. Danjian Island is already in danger of destroying the island simply by being involved with these people, let alone the Straw Hat who helped the biggest criminal among them. Integrity. There is no way around this. Ancient weapons are an essential element in order to achieve a world where energy can be shared for free. Vegapunk sighed, then became impassioned about his dream. But as long as we pass the Imperial examination system, we can directly enter the scientific research class of the Eternal Kingdom, and then we can also study ancient weapon. There is no need to take such a big risk. Listening to Sakamuni's words, Vegapunk shook his head and said, "Not to mention that the Imperial examination system still has more than 2 years to go. According to ancient historical records, Nika's ability is an indispensable element. As long as you can master the awakened Nika factor, everything will be successful. As for Dwarag's son, that level is almost there. As long as I can continue to conceal the time and fulfill my ultimate long-cherished wish, I will die without regret." Crazy on the left, genius on the right. Vegapunk, as the world's undisputed #1 genius, naturally can turn into a desperate lunatic when it comes to his lifelong dreams. Especially now that the four seas are united, and peace has been preliminarily realized under the new Eternal Kingdom. He just needs to create the era of brilliant technology for this world. I understand. There was silence for a while, Sakamuni Kaido. The dream of the main body is also the dream of them as avatars. And according to the time, the Straw Hat has been here for more than a month, maybe it can really hide the past. After all, Danjian Island is an island of Vegapunk, but it is an absolutely independent island in the world. Especially there are many device jammers on the island, plus the virtual projection mode in the boundary dome, the security is not generally high. Beep. Thinking in this way, on the many screens on the R&D floor, among them the screen observing the open sea, a warning sound suddenly came out. Sakamuni and the ontology leaned forward in a hurry, and the scene in the screen immediately made Vegapunk burst into a cold sweat. On the islands dozens of miles away from Danjian Island, there are all the ships of the Straw Hat Fleet and the Revolutionary Army. But at this moment, all of them have suffered a terrible disaster. Pluto. Uranus. There are thousands of meters or even thousands of meters of Sea Kings. The three ancient weapons are currently clearing away the cancerous tumors considered by Sakamuni as unstable factors. The so-called crowd tactics and New World powerhouses are as fragile as tofu in front of this level of weapons, and they will be broken every day. Sakamuni was also not calm and panicked. The people from the Eternal Kingdom are here. Who leaked the secret? It's been more than a month since they have been safe and sound. Is it the guys on the outskirts? They obviously took them in with good intentions. Lilith followed and said angrily, sure enough, we should just let the weapons tear them apart. Pythagoras scratched his head in a panic. Impossible. I obviously let the robot also set the shielding mode there. It's not an issue at all now. After Sakamuni opened his mouth, he walked out immediately. Let the Straw Hats and the main body hide directly. Maybe the Eternal Kingdom doesn't know the exact situation of Danjian Island. Even if we know, we can still transfer the Straw Hat and the main body secretly through the bear's ability. The rest of the avatars followed immediately, and Lilith said, do you still want to be a good student at this time? Honest. Why do you want to do that? Wouldn't it be better to just abandon them? Anyway, those people are outsiders from Danjian Island. Because the Straw Hat carries the dream of the ontology. When Shiki said a word, Lilith stopped talking. I'll notify the Straw Hat warriors to come out of the special training ground. Edison ran to the operating table and quickly operated. At this moment, the voice of warning spread directly throughout the entire Danjian Island. Beep. Beep. One by one the boundary dome is closed. What? Edison, what are you doing? Close the border at this time. Hearing the reminder that resounded through the sky, the avatars who were taking steps outside hurriedly turned around. Not me. Edison hurriedly adjusted the system and said quickly, the center is out of control now, the system has been hacked. That's right, the R&D layer is now closed. While everyone gasped, a tall figure slowly walked in from the outside. York? What do you mean, is this situation related to you now? Lilith opened her mouth excitedly, but York laughed foolishly. That's right, I have already informed the Eternal Kingdom of your actions, and I will also become the master of the Eternal Kingdom. Looking at the girl with explosive figure and sweet appearance, this is the first time the other 5 avatars in the main body have seen York smiling like this. It is obviously a happy smile, but it makes people feel creepy and uncomfortable psychologically. Is this still the York who helps them share their desires and only knows how to eat and drink? Are you kidding, York? You are violating the original intention. Boom. The gunshot directly interrupted Sakamuni's unfinished words forever. I've heard a lot of honest words, and I always feel irritated, but now it's much quieter. After blowing on the unextinguished hot smoke from the pistol, York asked the stunned crowd. York. Frenzy, Atlas said angrily. In the next second, countless shadow guards who had been buried in Danjian Island for many days filed in, instantly controlling all the avatars in the main body. Immediately afterwards, York walked towards Vegapunk step by step, squatting down, and the huge figure still directly covered the main body. It's all Vegapunk is too much trouble. York smiled and said, Ontology, I have always thought that as long as there is a Vegapunk in the world, I will be happier. I, York, was born between the heavens and the earth, how can I live under the people for a long time? Unaware of the desire swallowing incident that erupted at the R&D level at this moment, the Straw Hats and the Samurai stopped training because of the cessation of the simulated battlefield and the warning sound of the border dome. But no one was nervous because of this, after all, this situation has happened many times in this month. Walking out of the training room, almost everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Fighting against the group of robots on Danjian Island who can use lasers and super fighting talents really made them feel 10 vivid feelings. Luffy stretched his muscles and said, "Ah, this battle is as refreshing as ever. and I feel that I am getting closer to the awakening that Mr. Baker said. It's Vegapunk. Frankie corrected the captain's shortcoming of not remembering the name, and then touched the machinery composed of the latest technology on the upper and lower parts of his body. As expected of the most intelligent scientist in the world, my body is getting closer and closer to those high-strength modified humans, and then I will become a launcher. Powerful battle of lasers. Ooh. Luffy, Usopp and Chopper immediately looked at the stars and rushed to Frankie Times to make trouble. This group of idiots, it's not for you to have time to play with these things now. With a cigarette in his mouth, Sanji took a puff and looked at the warriors who also came out of the battlefield. How is the progress on your side? With the current world situation, we have to race against time in this special situation. Headed by Kinemon, all the Red Sheath warriors nodded in unison. I have never thought that there is such a magical existence in the sea. It is completely beyond the mystery of black magic. I am also watching the sky from the bottom of a well. Those robots are very powerful. It seems that they have passed the analysis of Brother Edison. Our martial arts have grown rapidly in the process of fighting them. It's not just that Luffy's feeling for the tyrant is getting closer and closer, but also the companions of the Straw Hats and the Samurai have also achieved a significant improvement in their skills and martial arts through this targeted training of artificial intelligence. If it is said that they struggled with the two cadres who used to be the Beast's pirates before, and now the experience since the sea plus the transformation of this month, even the four Emperors Kaido, they also think that they can eradicate him. And there is no comparison with Odin. Naturally, the Red Sheaths all believe that the Lord's strength is invincible. And thinking of the Master, the young Master is naturally also associated. Thinking of this, Jishin Takeda and the others all frowned. Momonosuke, who has become an uncle and is still a decadent ordinary person, only allowed the opponent to comprehend a few sword skills that can throw gorgeous sword flowers from the level of a junior samurai in a month, and gained nothing other than that. And that's with the help of amazing things like technology. And you must know their real master Odin, who was able to lift a boulder to kill a giant bear at the age of 4. After 15 years old, it caused such a big event as the Quality Trial and Mountain God incident. In this contrast, the Red Sheath Samurai deeply felt the mediocrity of Momonosuke. Although the young master is only an 8-year-old child in essence, his appearance in his 30s and 40s makes them completely unable to see him normally. After a long time, many Red Sheath warriors have forgotten the real age of Momonosuke. The scrutiny that hates iron can't be steel is probably pressure Momonosuke. And this makes Momonosuke, who has no sense of responsibility, even more incompetent. Knowing what the samurai were thinking, Sanji let out another mouthful of mist and said, "It's almost done, he's still just an 8-year-old kid after all." Jinamon and the others nodded, but didn't say anything. Seeing the attitude of the samurai, Sanji also understood that they didn't hear his words, so he didn't say anything more. After all, this group of people has the idea of restoring the country, and Fang also has deeds that he has to do. From all the things involved in going to sea with Maud, plus the incidents of Garp, Red Hair, and Brook, their captains have completely achieved immortality with Maud. When it comes to the death of companions, saviors, and grandpa, the crew members who are companions are better than family members can't turn a blind eye. It can be said that this moment completely ignored the fear of Maud all the time. Luffy looked back. That's right, its death is home. Although their strength has grown exponentially in a month, there are quite a few companions who understand the situation. If they want to fight against the Eternal Kingdom, which is now the entire world, at their level, they are undoubtedly seeking their own death. But the sea, isn't it the destination for men who go out on adventures? And also witnessed Luffy realize the dream of One Piece in another sense. On the other hand, it is not only most of the Straw Hats' companions who see the reality clearly, but also Momonosuke. Just because he is well aware of his own weakness and incompetence, he is even more afraid of the powerful Mord and the Eternal Kingdom. Even these retainers and even the 10 kingdoms of Zou cannot compete with them. What's more, Momonosuke also knows that he, an 8-year-old child, can already understand the period. Kinemon and the others can definitely see it clearly, but they still let themselves keep pushing towards the dream of revitalizing Wano Kuni. I want to push him to death continuously. At the same time, in this situation of being pressured and suppressed by the retainers every day, feelings of hatred and hatred began to fill Momonosuke's heart. He is obviously just a retainer. He is the young master. Why do you ask me to do this and that with confidence? And it was because of them from the beginning that he had conflicts with Mord in the Flying Kingdom. Obviously, his mother and Hiyori are still alive, being able to live comfortably outside. After all, Hiyori was the princess of the Fikong Kingdom at that time. Now she is the princess of the Eternal Kingdom. Not to mention that there is a mother who loves him very much. The contrast between the depression of reality and the beauty of fantasy made Momonosuke even more motivated to let this guy die at will, and he flinched and surrendered to Kai Swan. As for reviving Wanokuni, whoever loves will come. Even if the father is alive, he must not want to see himself, the only heir of the family, die. Brew brew. Brew brew. After the boundary dome disappeared, the special communication equipment was able to communicate, and the phone bug soon rang in the arms of the military strategist Hughes. Finally connected. Brother Straw Hat, something is wrong. Hearing the panicked and unconcealable voice, Luffy's expression immediately changed, and he rushed to Hughes and said, "Hey, what's going on? The army of the Eternal Kingdom is here. We are fleeing desperately now. The big ship regiment and Zowu have suffered a comprehensive blow. Almost the entire army has been wiped out. The group of revolutionary troops is also running to the death. Run." The phone bug cried bitterly. Our so-called alliance is not worth mentioning in the eyes of the other party, and the number of 100,000 people is directly killed by that Pluton. Brother Straw Hat, take advantage of those people. You haven't reached Danjian Island yet. Run away now. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a loud bang from the background, and the phone bug hung up completely. "Hey. Are you okay?" Luffy shouted excitedly, wishing to see the situation on the other side directly through the phone bug. Even if he is a single-minded guy, he knows at this time that the other party must be in danger. Although he didn't intend to be keen on the so-called big boat groups, but these are all friends who got together after drinking the wine of friendship. Luffy. Now what do we do? Sanji began. And everyone in the Straw Hats and the Red Sheath Warriors also looked at Luffy. Even Hughes, Usopp, and Chopper, who were the timid trio, didn't show much fear. Obviously they had already made up their minds. Let's leave Danjian Island. Luffy gritted his teeth, and made a decision that was rational but surprised his companions. Now we are not the opponents of those people, but one day, I will definitely beat Faemod and his gang. Looking at Luffy's serious expression, the companions also understood why quickly. Backing down now is not admitting defeat, not compromising, nor cowardice. In this situation, if you go head-to-head with the people of the Eternal Kingdom rashly, the ending can only be the most meaningless death. Now that they all have plans to go to righteousness bravely, it is natural to make Mord and Eternal Kingdom feel a greater loss. Good judgment. Suddenly, a compliment came from the R&D level on the high platform behind. Everyone looked back, but the tall figure of York was looking down at them with a smile, and beside him was the Tide Vegapondu. Before the Straw Hats and the others figured out the situation, York continued, "It's just a pity, it's too late." As he spoke, York pinched a flag that looked like a punctuation mark in his hand. The strange fluctuations in the space immediately vibrated, and then condensed around York, until a door appeared. Then a figure slowly walked out of it. That person is. Looking at the figure that appeared from the space element, everyone's eyes widened, the whole body trembled uncontrollably or because of excitement, fear and other emotions. Mod. Only Luffy saw the other party, and immediately said with undisguised anger. Even though it was only the first time we met, for a face idiot like Luffy, he would recognize this man even if he turned into ashes. Run. I'll buy everyone time to retreat. Roaring, Luffy spewed steam all over his body, and in the blink of an eye, he transformed into the form of a 4-stage spring man. It's just that under the voice, everyone except Momonosuke stood beside Luffy. Are you kidding? We are companions along the way. How could it be possible for you to face everything alone? Although the crew members who disobey the captain's order are disqualified, we have no respect for you as the captain. That's right. Luffy. We are companions and even more pirates. We have already broken up when we went out to sea. Your Excellency Luffy. Once we were saved by the Lord, we left behind a lifetime of regrets. Now the palace's long-cherished wish and will have basically been broken, and we will never linger. We would rather fight this thief, even if we die. To comfort us in the face of the remorse and shame of the palace. Listening to the words of his companions and warriors, Luffy felt indescribably moved, so he took a deep breath and faced Mod again. Mode. I don't care what new king of the world you are. You bastard, I will definitely beat you to the ground. Boom. One by one. The terrifying conqueror's waves swept across, causing the surrounding area to be as cold as falling into an ice cave in just an instant. Ah. With just a chuckle, Haki, which was only a firefly light to Mod, instantly shattered. To be worthy of being the protagonist appointed by the world, the so-called hidden drum of liberation really knows how to gather people's hearts. It's just that the originally precarious government has already been won by himself, so how can the so-called liberation shake the new regime that he is in charge of now? Naturally, Luffy is nothing more than a monkey who has no interest in him now. It would be better to say that Momonosuke, who is at the end of the group, can still arouse some rare evil interests in him. Mod raised his index finger and pointed at Straw Hat and the others. In just an instant, a huge pressure suddenly descended on that space. Let Luffy, who had just been shot by the force of the spring, fall directly. Boom. 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 The ground exploded together, and everyone except Momonosuke was suppressed in pain in the hole. No matter how nice it sounds, it's just a joke in the face of absolute disparity, but if you want to die generously, I can certainly help you. As soon as the words fell, everyone felt that the heavy burden on their bodies was intensified, and they were almost out of breath. At the same time, Momonosuke, who didn't feel the pain at first, was also affected by the slight aftermath, and fell to his knees without any resistance. Looking at Maud, it felt like he was facing life and death so closely for the first time, and the hem of Yoshinosuke's kimono got wet again. A strong sense of fear forced him to shout, "Wait, Lord Maud. We are willing to surrender, and please spare us." Peach. Master Momonosuke. That guy is the thief who stole Wano-kuni. How can you beg him for mercy? You are the son of Goden, the young master of the Hikari family of Wano-kuni. Hearing Momonosuke's surrender, surprise seemed to overwhelm the oppression on his body, and the straw hats and the samurai looked at Momonosuke in disbelief. Those gazes included surprise, understanding, bewilderment, resentment, dissatisfaction, and so on. It was also the first time that Momonosuke had such a wonderful feeling, as if he could feel the emotions of others. It's just that feeling their surprised, betrayed eyes made Momonosuke feel even more uncomfortable, and the emotions that had been suppressed all erupted at the most critical moment. "There's no need to do this, everyone," Momonosuke yelled. "What revives the Kazuki family and revives Wano-kuni? It's completely meaningless if you die. And this Mord-sama has fulfilled his father's will. Let Wano-kuni get rid of the rule of Orochi and Kaido, and let Wano-kuni achieve openness. Isn't that all right? Why do you have to go to the point of life and death?" 3. Listening to Momonosuke's speech, everyone was silent, as if it was the first time they saw such Momonosuke. "If this is what Dao Zi thinks in your heart, then that's fine, but I will never surrender to this guy." Looking at the refusal Luffy and the silent vassals, Momonosuke felt a strong sense of disappointment this time. "Why?" Momonosuke yelled. "Stop it, young Master Momonosuke. It's us who failed to protect you for the royal palace. We are all criminals. But please don't say anything about begging for mercy. This is not only a shame as a samurai, but also a shame to shame on the palace and the Kazuki family." Kinemon interrupted Momonosuke's words, and at this moment, he only felt that the pain in his heart was far greater than the pain in his body. Wano-kuni, Mrs. Toki and Princess Hiyori, and the cleaning of Kazuki's house and the destruction of Zou. This guy in front of him has taken away almost everything that Lord Yudian owns. And such a villain, his own son Momosuke, who was supposed to avenge Yudian. The young master they supported actually begged the enemy for mercy in order to survive. In this situation, I'm afraid they will have no face to see Yudian even under the 9 springs. Feeling all kinds of inner voices through knowledge and knowledge, Maud couldn't help laughing. "It's worthy of me to come here on. It really is a good show, you are right, time." Hearing this name, the Red Sheath Samurai and Momonosuke were taken aback, and despite the terrifying oppression on their bodies, they desperately raised their heads and looked in Maud's direction. As Mord's voice fell, several figures came out of the portal one after another. 2 of the figures have very similar faces, just like twins, but they can still be distinguished from the behavior of one gentle and lively one. Looking at those 2 stunning figures, Jinwaiman and others shouted in unison, "Princess Hiyori, she, Mrs. She." Although they looked almost the same, but this time, the quality warriors completely distinguished the identities of the 2. Even though I was excited, I was still horrified, because Mrs. She's beautiful appearance was still exactly the same as 20 years ago except for the change in her attire. Could it be that Mrs. She also traveled back through 20 years like them? The Red Sheath warriors didn't know it, but as retainers, they finally saw the Lord's wife and daughter again. "My Lord Mother." Momonosuke couldn't help shouting, from all the things he had traveled through, to feeling the disappointment of his retainers and friends before, as if he had suffered all the grievances, and just wanted to return to his mother's warm embrace like before. At the same time, Momonosuke couldn't help but feel a little bit secretly happy. Since his mother has also come here, he is more likely to be able to survive. Kinemon. Kawamatsu. Reizu. When Tianyue read the names of these former retainers, every warrior below who was mentioned couldn't hide their tears. Until silently reading all the Red Sheaths, Tianyue Shi had a feeling that 20 years had passed, and even recalled the meeting with Maud at that time, and the other party's bets. The spontaneous sense of happiness made Tianyue Shi couldn't help stroking his lower abdomen, and then looked at Momonosuke. This is different from the retainers. Momonosuke, who was directly matured into an uncle, did not arouse Tianyue Shi's sympathy for the world, but only felt helpless towards the bad taste of the people around him. "Momonosuke. My lord, Listening to Tianyue-shi's faint call, Momonosuke felt that he had returned to the happiest time, and responded eagerly with excited crying. It's just that the drama that mother and child haven't seen for many years didn't happen as expected. Tianyue shook his head and said, "No, I am no longer your mother now." The pupils of Akakaba and Momonosuke immediately widened, but Tianyue Toki ignored it, and then said with cruel words without any mercy, "I have already given up everything about the sun and accidents, Kazuki Odin, so whether it is Kazuki, Kinemon, you, and Momonosuke, are just passersby to me. I don't want to say more about the rest. So I've already said it." Kazuya then stabbed a knife. "These are just the past. For me and my mother now, they are all useless things, and useless things can be discarded. Besides, I don't want to have such an incompetent person like you. The waste material big brother, the child in the mother's arms, is the new family that I admit." As soon as he finished speaking, Rihei suddenly felt a pain in his abdomen, but without thinking about it, he knew that it must be caused by his mother, so he hurriedly let go of Ashi's arm, and turned to Maud. As Rihei thought, Tianyueshi just thought that this girl was crazy at this moment, and she really dared to say anything in order to cater to Maud's evil taste. "But I thought so in my heart, when I saw Motor deliberately pushing away the other arm of Churi in accident." Wu Yu still honestly leaned forward. "Maud, how dare you defile Mrs. Shi? Absolutely, absolutely will kill you. Even if you die, I will never let you go as an evil ghost. Mrs. Shi, are you worthy of Yudian and young Master Momonosuke?" Several roars sounded one after another, and the strong emotions even directly surpassed the initial Luffy. Maud looked down with a faint smile, the furious Straw Hats and Red Sheath warriors, and Uncle Peach, who was completely stunned by the facts. "Since this is the case, I will give you a chance to go up together." Maud's index finger flicked again, and the multiplier floating object imposed on that space was immediately released. As soon as the restrictions on the body disappeared, almost at the same time, everyone used all their strength to bombard the area where Maud was at the same time. Mord let go of the environmental protection against Japan and Ashi, and pulled out Chu Sakura. The gap that has already been like a chasm doesn't even require Mord to use his full strength, it's just a few dozen times the increase plus the domineering sword power. The power of one cut. Except for Momonosuke, all the protagonists who stepped forward were killed by a single blow in an instant. Under the blood, there was only one intact Straw Hat slowly falling in the pool of blood. In this way, everything is over, and it does not belong to the unstable factors of this era. For the sake of you performing a good show for me, you and I won't make a move. Mord looked at the sluggish Momonosuke, and then returned to the portal with Toki and Hiyori. Momonosuke, who reacted, immediately collapsed. Both happy and sad, he covered his face. "I actually survived. It's just that Mother and Hiyori, and everyone has completely left themselves. You don't think you'll survive, do you?" The voice of ridicule sounded in front of Momonosuke, and he was so frightened that his hair stood on end and he sat up immediately. Click. And a pistol was right on his head after sitting up. York said with a smile on his face, "Although the Lord said he won't shoot, it doesn't mean I won't shoot." Momonosuke's horrified eyes widened, before he could say anything. Only a gunshot was heard, and finally fell to the ground. The next day, a piece of news quickly spread throughout the world through newspapers. In July of the first year of eternity, the destruction of the Straw Hat fleet announced that the remnants of the Great Pirate Era were finally eliminated, and it also symbolized that the hundreds of years of history in the pirate profession will enter a stage of thorough cleanup. And this is an ambitious goal that neither the world government nor the Marine has ever achieved. All of a sudden, the sea boils. Numerous people even more praised and recognized the greatness of the new regime. Although the Revolutionary Army Drago had some emotional fluctuations, he finally remained silent as Mode thought, and this incident involved some greedy Revolutionary Army. In the end, after Maud's coercion and the decisions of several Legion commanders, the Revolutionary Army serving the people was disbanded, and the leader, Dorag, also returned to East Blue and began to live in seclusion. And several Legion chiefs entered the Eternal Kingdom after the Imperial examination a few years later, thinking that they could better realize the concept of serving the people from the Eternal Kingdom. Eternal 10 years. After York completely obtained all the abilities and knowledge of the ontology from Vegapunk, the new technology he assumed quickly brought a new look to the world ruled by Mord. Although ships are still the mainstream of travel, new tools such as power ships and energy spaceships have gradually begun to be used. At the same time, outstanding abilities are almost concentrated in the Eternal Kingdom. More and more new policies and new abilities are benefiting from the central government, and the world is constantly developing towards a glorious era in the hands of Maud. As for the problem of resources, after York began to conduct research with Caesar and Compass, he slowly obtained the eternal energy that Vegapunk had been praying for. As for whether this will cause competition, maybe there will be, but in front of Mord, they can be suppressed with bare hands, and he doesn't even need to take action. After all, the vassals who have reached the longevity species through pure gold can achieve immortality with the surgical ability of continuous regeneration. What's more, since Moder achieved the immortal surgery, this era is just like its name, only the word, eternal. But it may be a matter of interest that Maud needs to think about the future. Although his current interest is still being slept with at night, and then watching various girls compete for his favor, Yamato Hancock, Nami Karina and Noki Gao, the combination of Maria, Shirahoshi, and even Hiyori and Ashi, who completely disrupted the relationship, and so on. Of course, there are also daily baby-raising activities that have begun in recent years. But after all, this world has been completely controlled by him. Without new music, sooner or later it will gradually feel boring. Immediately afterwards, he seemed to feel Maud's thoughts. On a certain day after several years, the long-lost cheat reappeared in Maud's mind. There, Moder once again gained the ability to rewrite fate, and possessed the ability to break through the barrier of the world. As a result, greed and desire were nourished again, and Mord began to lead the entire world of the Eternal Kingdom to launch a crusade towards the new world. Until the world reached by the target becomes eternal.